take first watch.
Hello, and welcome to an all-new episode of the First Watch podcast, part 3 of 3 of our Paul Thomas Anderson retrospective. And importantly for me on this day, the Cleveland Guardians, the baseball team out of Eastern Ohio, have beaten the Texas Rangers and therefore have clinched the AL Central. So we're celebrating also that. The rest of the group, not celebrating. They don't care, but I care, and you're going to hear about it because
You're
I
te
care.
you're
So
you're telling me this for the
Yeah,
first time.
I was going to say
welcome to the
that
show.
we was doing some heavy lifting there.
Yeah,
Royal
was that
we.
French?
Yeah,
Mm.
oui. Le baseball. Anyway, today we're here to talk about the latest and greatest, the supremely hyped, the Oscar hopeful, the box office sensation in IMAX for 1 week and 1 week only, one battle after another. Before we get there, we'll just do a quick roundabout. You guys know the drill by now. I'm going to start with mine because I have a lot of repeats from last week. So I just kind of want to quickly drill through some of these as I have now had a chance to catch up with them. And who knows? So I actually, after kind of a period of not really going out a whole lot, just kind of was in doing these Paul Thomas Anderson rewatches. I went out for like a triple dipper. It was 1 week. I think it was the day after we did our last episode on Inherent Vice and The Master. So it was Sunday after that. And I was like, I'm just gonna go watch movies all day. I don't care. And I went to see three. One of them was Him, the new thriller film, debut feature, executive produced, Jordan Peele.
Skip Bronchi.
It certainly is a thriller film.
It's something, all right.
That is the
Not
genre.
sure anybody that made it has ever watched football, which is like a weird angle for it, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's really your whole gimmick is like this sports motif, but it's super surface level. I mean, I think that there's a genuine, if you have a confrontational edge, you could make a movie about concussions and CTE and the NFL and hero worship and celebrity worship. And there's like a lot of ideas there. And it's like, nah, no thanks. We're going to do a little music video visual motif and we're going to get the fuck out of here. And that's it. Just super empty movie. One of the most empty movies of the year. I complemented that with the history of sound, which I did not realize when I walked into it. That is the same director, Oliver Hermanus. I don't know how to pronounce it. Same guy that did Living, the Ikiru remake with Bill
hmm
Nighy that won
Ah,
that Bill Nighy had the Oscar nom. I almost said he won, but he did not win. He just had the nom. And this kind of hit me in the same way as that, where wasn't really expecting a lot out of it. Didn't get a ton out of it, but I found it pleasant throughout, thoughtful, interesting. The real reason to see this is because the two leads are Josh O'Connor, who I think is like 1A, 1B with Austin Butler as like this dude who is just completely primed to explode. I think he's just super talented, extremely compelling. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in Knives Out 3, Wake Up Dead Man, whatever we're calling that at this point. Super excited to see him in the Kelly Reichardt film that he's in. He is not in as much of this as you might think, but he completely owns every minute he's in it. Paul Mescal is more central. That's the other lead. I was glib about this last week, but this put me back on the positive side of the Mescal train. I thought he was good in this. You know,
Yeah, he is.
to the extent that the material lets him. This is, chilly, kind of New Englandy vibes to the whole thing. Interesting, good. It's a good Sunday matinee movie if it's available for you to be able to catch it. Speaking of Reichardt, our Davey gave it I think the same 3-star rating that I did and compared it to the Kristen Stewart, Lily Gladstone segment of Reichardt Certain Women, which I think is quite apt. Like that's pretty on the money for the tone, the mood, the feel. Certain Women's much better, but that's about the range you're getting into. Um, I'm going to save the last part of my 3-part thing to just jump to the other one that's a repeat that we've all talked about. But I think there's a nice segue to bringing this back up. So I went and saw Francis Lawrence's The Long Walk, The Hunger Games, The Long Walk, Boys Edition, mates just schlepping around with Mark Hamill for really 3 to 4 of the worst minutes of his career, I think. Not in a lot of this, but making a distinct
Tough.
negative impression. Yeah, this
If I
He's
should have,
not bad.
yes, he is. I should have had a bottle of liquor prepared so I could take a shot every time the man said sack. You
which is
haven't got the
very
sack for this. You boys are proving that you have real sack.
That's never been a thing that anyone's said.
it's a very
Well, he said it
uh
about 10 different times during the
it's a
picture,
very like
so
Stephen King late 70s, early 80s kind of, jargon. Again, the New England crispy autumn kind of thing. Uh, yeah, this I've never read the novel. It's early. I think we talked about this a bit when Morgan and Cole were discussing it. One of the
Mhm.
Bachman novels, early, like within his first five, so like before The Stand, basically. Longer than I would. Just the premise of this screams short story to me. This feels like it's 11 pages of trudging along with these guys and in their thoughts, and people keep dropping. Or I could also see how the novel version of it, where you would get lulled in. I think I probably went through this spiel. But as a movie, really carried by performances. I can't say anything anybody hasn't already said. Johnson, awesome here. Uh, I was just joking about Paul Mescal. This put me on the. This is the best Cooper Hoffman performance, I think. Licorice
that
Pizza,
I've
the
seen, yeah.
casting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, are there any besides the three? It's Licorice Pizza and Saturday Night and this.
Yeah, he's got the
Uh,
new Greg Araki movie coming up, but
Yeah. He's in a Luca Guadagnino too. Am I right about that?
I
No, maybe
don't
not.
think so.
Okay,
No.
I don't remember. There was like a list of names. He's in a few things coming out. Oh yeah, he's in
he's,
that Ethan Hawke movie about Flannery O'Connor briefly. He's in one of the
mm,
episodes of that.
Mm.
he is in the Guadagnino movie about
Dang.
OpenAI that I will
Oh, he is an
not
artificial. Okay.
that I will be hard skipping. He's in Maud Apatow's directorial
Oh,
debut.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That girl
Nepotism
is
children all together.
2 years older than I am.
How
Hopefully she
much
makes
older than
movies
you?
shorter than her father's.
How much older than you is Cooper Hoffman? Because he's got to be pretty close in age too, right?
He is 4 years younger.
4 years. Okay, I thought he might be younger. That's crazy. People
Well,
shouldn't be that
at
young. What
the,
are you
at,
doing being
at the,
born after the year 2000? Fuck
Yeah,
off. Come on.
being born after the year 2000 and being named Maud.
yeah. That one was wild, Judd.
Yeah, I mean his name, I mean I don't know if his government name is Judd, but his name is Judd. So,
He's just a big fan of that B. Arthur show.
but yeah,
I
Long
mean,
Walk, nice PG-13, a gruesome, like unsparing, but very PG-13, I thought, and a lot of like, just sell out on this a little harder. Sell out on like the practicality, sell out on the nasty. But yeah, I liked
You
it. I
saw that
think,
ankle, right?
yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
Ugh.
I got some heat from somebody that rewatched it and like raised their score, bumped their score, if you will. And I was like, yeah, it's a prototypical 3 star, like enjoyed it, thumbs up. Probably won't really think about it again. But the segue, the reason to bring it up is because today is the 28th day of the month of September. We have two left, and then it's October. It's a fun time to talk about horror movies. We have collectively decided that we're going to talk about the Stephen King. Kind of, I think a little based on this. I know that Morgan and I just both reread Carrie. I'm currently rereading Christine, and those will be the two movies that we talk about. So little preview for the future, a little preview for what's coming down the pipeline. And the last thing that I will bring up is the new Kogonada movie, a big, bold, beautiful journey, co-starring Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie as two people who have a fateful meeting and go on sort of this fantastic romantic journey of learning about each other's lives. It's kind of high concept. It's kind of mom lit kind of feeling, like time traveler's wife zone of a movie by the guy who did Columbus and After Yang, which remains like the most like, how do we get here? What is the tone of this movie? Is it going to depart from his usual thing and be like this total crowd pleaser? Is it going to be way more difficult than people think it's going to be? And somehow it just kind of ended up in that awkward space between committing to an idea and committing to a tone. Cole, what'd you think of this? Did you come down more positively than I did?
I have not had time to see
Oh,
this
you
yet,
didn't see it. Okay, I'm the
and
only one that's
based
seen it.
on the income that it's getting from the box office, I
Oh
don't
yeah,
think I'm gonna have much of a chance to see it in the theaters
completely,
anyways.
completely ignored. Like just bombed out of all creation. Yeah. So they're strangers. They meet. They go on this like adventure where they each explore moments from the other person's life. I think based on the title and the general premise, I think this movie was literally greenlit very shortly after Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture. It was like we
That would make
want
sense.
in on that. We want part of that shit. We want love, we want alternate realities, we want big, earnest, crazy, but yeah, it just hasn't really made a splash. No chemistry, which feels insane because I feel like Margot Robbie just radiates beauty and sexuality and all these other things. And then Colin Farrell could have fucking chemistry with a lamppost if he chose to, right? Like it's Colin fucking Farrell, man. He flirts with people by sitting there saying nothing. So I don't really get how
That's
this
what
movie's
Miami Vice
so
is about.
And that's why it's a masterpiece.
Him and Gong Li should be shooting me into the stratosphere, and that
if
shit stank.
if Zhang Yimou directed Miami Vice with Gong Li,
It
different
would
story.
be it would be even better.
Different
Be
story.
different, but
um
That shit wouldn't have gone down like it did.
I
well,
can't wait for Zach and Morgan for you guys to give Joseph Kosinski's Miami Vice a higher rating than we've given
Because
Michael
it'll be
Mann's.
better.
and you will see me commit a murder on this podcast.
It'll look better. It'll have more fun performances.
It'll probably be quite good. Like
it will
I like
have
Kosinski.
if you think of like a center line, like a Mendoza line of movies, like just the most in one ear and out the other, completely average 2.5 to 3 star movie ever. Whatever that is, right? You have like these deviations outside that. Kosinski's will be in a single to maybe two deviations away from the middle. The Michael Mann picture, because he is a significant filmmaker taking big swings, is on the farther deviation. You know what I mean? So it's easier to get a
Mhm.
higher rating if you make a Joseph Kosinski is not a guy who will ever make a movie better than like a 3.5, and he's not a guy that'll ever make a movie much worse than a 2.5. He's right there in the
Mhm.
middle. He's just right down the middle. Michael Mann, he'll give you Heat and he'll give you Public Enemies. He'll give you The Keep. That's not his fault. We don't have to blame him for that.
A better movie than Miami Vice.
Oh, please.
That's difficult.
The
But
reason that the
Miami
yeah,
Vice doesn't have Tangerine Dream, so there's that.
It loses.
I'll be amazed if Kaczynski's Miami Vice has even like an ounce of the homoerotic energy of Michael Mann, of literally
Oh
any
yeah,
Michael
it
Mann
won't
movie.
have. That's the thing. It won't have anything
And
that
it won't have sex,
distinct.
that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
You don't know that. I
Has
mean,
he proven himself to be a sexy filmmaker? No.
No, certainly not.
well, no, but that's Tom Cruise's fault.
Yeah.
Tom said, "I'm not taking my pants off for anyone except Xenu." So we have to lay in this bed and laugh at
And
each
the
other.
interviewer in
And
Magnolia.
God, that was so funny.
yeah, well, I was about to say an amazing like just looking at that now and then and seeing where Tom is now and just in terms of like how utterly and completely any kind of sex appeal or sexuality has vacated him.
Yeah.
Like totally.
It
Even
peaked
when
in
he
the
was
early
down to like
2000s,
just his underwear for like 20 minutes of Final Reckoning.
and you don't even, yeah, he just looks like he's about to do a workout. Anyway, Kogonada. Still waiting on the Kogonada movie where I'm like, oh yeah. But I think he's just a little cool and dry for me. A pleasant filmmaker, but not somebody that really moves my needle. And then this just felt like it lacked a clear vision of what it wanted to be or how it wanted to get there. I think it's a more difficult, like if anybody tells you that it's just like a sap fest, I would reject that. I do think that it's got more emotional complexity than you might think going in, but it just doesn't have a strong level of conviction to say like, okay, we're going to be difficult. This movie's going to be, unpleasant. it's just, it doesn't really have a direction like that,
Mm.
and that just sinks it for me from the very beginning. No real chemistry, no real direction. Nah, forgettable. And I think that's pretty much it for me on the new release train, with the exception of Mr. Anderson. So, Cole, what do you got?
So as some of you know, I have not seen a Marvel film in theaters since 2023's The Marvels.
What
And
a
the way
one
I've
to
been,
what a strange one to go out on.
I
I get it
just hit
though.
I hit a point. I was just like, you know what?
This was the last time.
I have so many better things that I could do in my
You
life.
see Eternals, you see Captain Marvel 2, and you're like, I need to stop watching MCU dance numbers forever.
Yeah, that's it. Like, so, now I just wait until they fall off the back of a truck, and then I can put them on and, fold my laundry. And Fantastic Four fell off the back of a truck. I put it on, did my laundry, folded it all up. Um, and yeah, what a boring fucking movie.
Yeah.
There is absolutely nothing going on in there besides like the suggestion that this alternate uh 1960s Earth they live on seems to be exclusively focused on worshiping the Fantastic Four. I don't know. I found it very unsettling.
Doesn't really do a great. I was going to say, it doesn't really do a great job of world building. This is a bit ironic because I think if you were to highlight a single of its strengths, it would be that it's got better than usual production design for one of these types of movies, like
I guess.
television-ish, but it commits to a visual motif more than most of them do. It
Yeah,
looks less generic.
but it's buried under so much gray and
Yeah.
smudge and CGI and they got the baby in there who looks like Son of the Mask and I'm like, why are we doing this?
Old Renesmee,
Genuinely unsettling child.
the Jack Jack.
I
Mm-hmm.
guess Franklin's unsettlingness is the plot of the coming Avengers film, so it makes sense in canon.
Another movie I will watch at home folding laundry because that's what the series deserves at this point.
I texted this to Cole, and I think I said this once upon a time about Batman, but I think if you took this entire cast, 1-to-1, no changes, and you just hand the whole thing to Wes Anderson and you say, do whatever it is you want with this, that movie would be kind of compelling.
Sure.
Just, his little diorama visual style of a superhero, Marvel, cosmic, whatever, dumb, Fantastic Four sci-fi thing, mixed with the kind of like strange, offbeat, funny family dynamics. Mostly, I think I just got myself to thinking like, oh, it'd be kind of fun if like Vanessa Kirby and Julia Garner and Pedro Pascal were in a Wes Anderson movie.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it.
He's got big enough ensembles for that.
That's that's
Um,
that's what I've got left in the tank to say about Fantastic Four movies in 2025.
can't wait to do it again when they reboot it in 2035.
Yeah.
They've been very consistent about that this decade. I'll give them
Will
that.
Chris Evans have a role in the film? I don't know. We'll find out.
I keep seeing people posts online that are like, Chris Evans shaved his beard and he's been working out. He's definitely coming back for Captain America. And it's like I've never not seen Chris Evans look like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are on about.
Maybe he's gonna come back and play Mephisto.
He was in Knives Out and his biceps were bigger than my whole skull. What do you?
Isn't
Well, yeah,
Sacha
he's also
Baron
it's also
Cohen Mephisto?
Huh?
it's also
Yeah,
like it's also like actor what works out and like shaves. He's an actor. Like he does a lot of movies. Like that's what they do. They have to change the way they look fairly regularly to some degree, you know?
And
I'm
there's
not saying he won't be in Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars. I'm just saying he might be in there as, Ransom Thromby or something.
I think all of us feel strongly that we've reached a really pathetic space with this stuff.
yeah.
Where like, okay, we want to get audiences in the door. Cart out Hugh Jackman, cart out Wesley Snipes, cart out Chris Evans.
Twice,
I still
probably.
haven't I still haven't seen that one yet. I've
Don't.
seen enough fucking TikToks of it to know the gist.
Yeah, that's honestly possibly the worst one.
It's it's down there. This is a topic covered in depth on this channel. I will have you know.
All right, moving beyond all that superhero bullshit.
Indeed.
It's the most wonderful time of the year in LA. Festival season is upon us. Right now, Beyond Fest, hosted by the American Cinematheque and funded by Neon, is making the rounds from the middle of September through the beginning of October. And I'll be seeing a couple of movies. So the first thing I did was a double feature yesterday with a new distributor, 1-2 Special. The first of these films is Urchin, the directorial debut of Harris Dickinson, and it focuses on a young addict named Mike, who's played by Frank Delane, who was a 16-year-old Voldemort in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And you're just watching this guy go through the cycle of being out on the street, scraping for cash, robbing someone, going to jail, starting a recovery program. And of course, it goes sideways because he's struggling to adapt, struggling to stay sober. The housing council doesn't really care about people like him, so they let people like this fall for the cracks. It's a pretty solid just depiction of, that cycle and what a ruthless thing it is to be caught in. And just watching him slowly get better and then just stumble back down all the way. I thought it was a pretty solid debut. It's got a couple more surreal touches than I was expecting, but I do think that Harris Dickinson might have the juice. So this is releasing in New York and LA on October 10th, followed by select cities on the 17th. So just going to be another slow rollout.
It does seem entirely possible to me that he has more juice as a director than he does as an actor.
I was surprised, honestly. I was not expecting as much.
My point is just that I think he stinks.
He was good in Baby
I
Girl.
thought, look, there's a pretty low ceiling for quality of basically anything and anyone in Triangle of Sadness. But like I thought he hit his mark reasonably well. Like the best part of that
Mhm.
movie is like the very beginning of it, where he's just
Yeah.
basically angry at his girlfriend and just like fuming for 30 minutes straight.
Rest in peace to
Um,
that actress.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I forgot
Uh,
about that.
his best ones are probably either the Iron Claw, where he's good in the Iron Claw. Actually, I
Mhm.
like him in that. He's a little bit of a weird fit because he's such a tall, lanky guy. And then why am I not remembering it? Beach Rats. If you guys have seen Beach Rats,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
earlier,
Don't
earlier kind
don't
of indie.
Yeah,
don't
I
know
think that
her.
was 2017.
Hmm. I don't.
So
I'm not gonna say it's like his first role or anything, but he is much
definitely
younger
early.
and just really captures his. Really, it's like it's his body language, physicality, how tall and everything. I know that
Mhm.
sounds silly, but it captures that really well. It's not a movie that has like a lot of talking.
Yeah.
It's more vibes.
And then the second half of this double feature, the other film that 1-2 Special is distributing this fall, starting October 29th in New York and LA, is Radu Jude's
Yeah,
Dracula.
yeah.
So how do I describe this movie?
How do you describe the filmmaker?
um Radu Jude, for those of you who do not know, is one of the most important, at least I would say most important contemporary voices of our time. He's maybe he's one of the only filmmakers who knows how to really paw at what it's like to live in the 2020s and to dissect that and all the bullshit that we got to deal with at every single angle. And how this movie begins is it begins with a filmmaker who's panicking because his version of Dracula that he was hired to direct got a very bad approval rating from test audiences, only 82%. So he pulls out an iPad like this big and he asks his AI to produce different versions of Dracula to test out on us, the viewer. So, all disclosure, there is AI generated imagery throughout the movie. It's not a lot. I would say it's maybe about 20-25%, maybe probably less, honestly. But we go through all these different versions of Dracula. There's Dracula as a horrible boss who uses zombies to bust a strike. We have Dracula using TikTok. We have Dracula as someone in need of a dentist to help him out with his toothache. We get a 15-minute long reproduction of the first vampire story written in Romania, where the set budget was approximately $20. So there's cardboard cutouts everywhere. We get AI generated versions of Dracula, and it's all framed around this story of a dinner theater staging of Dracula, where the person who plays Dracula, this old man, and then this younger woman who plays Mina, have to run out every single night before they get caught by the people attending the dinner theater. Except one night, because of the low wages, the fact that they have to sleep with whoever bids on them the highest as part of the dinner theater experience, they decide to run away for real. So the owner of the dinner theater gets police approval to have whoever is there hunt them down and kill them for real. So you get all these people running around this Romanian town with spikes. And it's just such a overflowing hurricane of ideas, just throwing everything at you. You have all these different iterations of, what it means to be Romanian, through the eyes of like the most famous Romanian in history, and what it means that people turn to AI to have stuff given to them that they're too lazy to, craft on their own, which is where the AI comes in, because it's the butt of a joke. It's never presented as like a good thing. It's always this joke of, can you believe that this guy would turn to using this stuff to try to create his own version of Dracula? It's a hilarious movie. It's extremely vulgar. There's this one great story about a guy who, sows a field of corn, but instead what grows up is a field of magical cocks that, fuck you in,
That's the Romanian dream.
and they fuck you in the ass whenever you whistle. But it's just such an insane movie. It's almost 3 hours long, and you get all these different stories, all these different takes. There's maybe the funniest moment is an AI generated parody of Coppola's Dracula, where you just see the AI imagery just rot and mutate as it transforms every single time.
It's glad
Yeah,
that we can laugh as we put the Glock 17 to our temples.
That
that's
is
the
that's like the
that.
spirit of Radu Jude's entire filmography, whether
Mhm.
he's talking about TikTok or whether he's talking about like fascist regimes
Mhm.
and pogroms. Like it's just
Yeah.
is a very funny director, but a very knowing director, and straddles this line of like just shit that is so grim that you don't even know what to do with it anymore.
Mhm. It's long. It's absolutely going to be divisive to whoever watches it. But personally, I love this. This is one of my favorites of the year
Yeah,
so far.
I will never forget. I think both of our introduction to Radu Jude was watching Bad Luck Banging together over Zoom. And I think just not really knowing
Hmm.
what was happening, what was about to happen.
And that's
And
still repeated here.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's another one of the memories is I think I've probably told this before, but like there was a point when I had pneumonia and I was just like laid up and they had put
Hmm.
like 6 or 7 of his movies on the Criterion channel. So I just went through all of them and was like, sure.
I think you would kill a sick person if you showed them this movie.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to whatever Frankenstein is going to be, starring
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan or
Apparently
featuring him.
it
Maybe not starring. I don't know.
apparently starring Sebastian Stan as both Frankenstein and as the monster, while also
Whatever that
being
means.
while also being an examination of American CIA black sites in Romania, which gets mentioned here. They talk about, how they use Nirvana and Britney Spears to torture people. Because that totally makes sense in a Dracula movie.
It's a singular artist.
There are a couple tracks on In Utero that could be used as torture for me personally.
God, I mean, we could use the entire Britney Jean album if we wanted to torture someone really badly.
Tough.
Uh, but yeah, no, I absolutely love this. Absolutely not going to be for everyone, but if you can get onto the wavelength that he's on, I highly recommend it. And the last film I'm going to bring up was an early access screening for a movie releasing in theaters on October 10th. This is the latest from Luca Guadagnino. This is After the Hunt, which is a movie about a college professor who finds herself caught in between her best friend on campus. She's on the verge of tenure, just like her, and her prized pupil who accuses her best friend of sexual assault. And the movie is all focused on what does it mean in academia to have to deal with being caught in that situation? What does it mean to talk about sexual harassment on college campuses? You know, why did things turn out the way they did culturally? And, you know, it's a frustrating movie because it comes really close to working and then it just doesn't. Um, the main trio in this, you have Julia Roberts as a professor, probably her best performance in Saren Brockovich, as sort of the ice queen Lydia Tarr of the department. Actually, there's a poster for Mahler's Fourth Symphony at the very beginning at Yale. So I'm like, do you know Luca?
I think he knows.
Andrew Garfield as the her best friend's Hank, who gets fired and spirals out of control, and then Io Edebiri as Maggie, the star pupil who wants to be just like her, but also is probably guilty of some plagiarism in her dissertation, or at least when she tries to talk about her dissertation to Alma, the Julia Roberts character's husband, Frederick, who's played by Michael Sturlock.
My boy.
Best in show. So much fun.
Likely thing for him to be.
Thank you, Luca Guadagnino, for keeping this dude employed sometimes.
He basically completely eviscerates.
and Sam Raimi.
Why not?
Yeah. But he
With
basically eviscerates Maggie, Io's character, as like a complete fraud. Like, you are a spoiled little brat who's only here because your family paid for half the fucking campus. And the movie just goes back and forth between, like, how do you deal with the accusations of plagiarism? How do you deal with, people being accused of sexual assault, even if it didn't happen, and people think that she's lying, or, she insists that it's real. But Alma is a very icy character, and everything spirals out from her very cold and distant reaction to Maggie telling her that she's been assaulted and that she wants to press charges and that, she's going to take it to the media. And it turns out there's a reason why she's, trying not to react at all. And, I'll let you guys find out when you choose to watch this. But it's a movie more interested in button pushing than putting everything together and synthesizing it. It focuses more on the shallow pleasures of Julia Roberts being mean and icy. And, she gets some great lines, like, isn't there some obscure protest you should be performatively mad at? But it's
damn,
like, see, it's that kind of thing. So it just ends up being a little bit shallow. It's I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some people make it out to be, but it is a miss. It's a swing, but it's a miss.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be in this interesting place where he is like finally coming off of like an undefeated streak with this and like the coming open AI movie, where it's just like, it with the way your career's gone, if I don't like what you're doing, you're probably going to change it within the next year or next film that comes out. But it's just like, as I don't totally understand the choices you're making, sir.
I'll say this, it's his Woody Allen picture, which is very clear, like even in the opening credits, which are very Allen inspired.
Yeah, I can't quite piece together how everything that he's been doing lately fits. There's definitely like a queer lens to both Challengers, literally the movie Queer, to Call Me by Your Name. There's like a little bit of an adaptation streak. Like I kind of yeah, and then like how does Bones and All fit into this? Like I just there are threads, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that all looks a little clearer in 5 years, 10 years down the line to kind of piece together and go, oh, okay, I sort of see how this fits here and that fits over here.
Yeah. And even then, I'm not sure how this will eventually compare to Artificial, because one thing about this movie that I will reveal that the movie doesn't really advertise itself as is that it's actually a little bit of a period piece. The movie reveals itself to be taking place in 2019, and you're like, Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because if this happened right now, Io's character would, get laughed out the door. We have just swung back to that point where this drama could not be taking place.
Mm. Yeah, I'll be interested to see it. The negative reactions almost make it more compelling. Not to
Mhm.
say that it's like, not going to be frustrating or going to be up my alley, but a similar feeling about that new Lynn Ramsey, where it's just like, yeah, okay, bring it.
I'm so excited for that. Let's fucking go. Oh, and last
Yeah.
thing, great Chloe Sevigny turn, and that's
Ah, my girl. Chloe and Michael. I should be
Mhm.
so lucky.
Maybe
Shit.
I'm optimistic that Die My Love will be a version of Mother that doesn't make me want to stab myself in the eye. Lynn Ramsey has that power.
Mm.
Making you want to stab yourself in the eye,
Yeah, but like,
At the very
but
least,
like
there will
good.
almost certainly be less dialogue,
and thank heavens.
more more brooding, menacing dread for
Yeah.
10-minute stretches at a time.
Feels weird that she just has not had a movie in 8 years. Like it just doesn't seem right or feel right. It's not right. I'm ready to
I
fix
mean,
it. I'm ready to set the record straight.
she takes longish breaks,
I'm good with
so
it. I never want to rush anybody, but you sit. It's not like I've been sitting there at the door, Scott Pilgrim, waiting for the package to arrive for Lynn Ramsey. It's just like, man, 2017, huh? That is a long time. Paul Thomas
Mhm.
Anderson's gotten off his ass twice in that amount of time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's like I'm not missing a movie, am I? There was like 9 years between Morford Keller and Kevin.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
nine
Unless
that's
years in
I'm
right. Mhm.
between.
That's right.
yeah.
I
So
wasn't
yeah,
as
she
invested then. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Kevin
I
was
mean
kind of the moment where I was like, oh, okay, and then went back and watched Ratcatcher and all that stuff.
Yeah.
yeah. I have a lot of respect for someone who only speaks up when they have something to say. As
Sure.
much as I will go and see anything that Luca does now,
Yeah.
off the bat of
Hmm.
Challenges and Queer. I mean, those are two of my favorite movies of the last few years. That's earned, you know, something.
Yeah.
But but
I am interested to
yeah.
see how people react to this.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a VOD watch to me.
Yeah.
Because I will say, like the lines where, Julia's like taking down the overly coddled college students to get big laughs from the audience I was seeing it
That
with.
really, you're making it sound a lot like Tar cosplay. Like we had to
It
give Julia
is
Roberts a Tar.
it is definitely Tar inspired.
Yeah.
Tara's a movie I love, but I kind of love it because of the sort of like subtle piano teacher-esque
I was gonna
qualities that it
say
has.
Tar
Hmm.
is already like starting to get down that garden path of
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
movies that it's interested in. Not that it's bad, not that it's any less because of that. It's just, we did it. It was we did it. It was great.
Mm.
And this does do something slightly different in that she's not like the monster
Mhm.
in this movie. She's like the ice queen, and you're trying to figure out why she's so closed off from
Mm.
everything. But yeah, it's all right. And
Luca
that's
doing Christian Petzold.
but that's all I've got on my end.
Riley.
Yeah, I haven't been watching. I mean, I just been watching more Paul Thomas Anderson movies, sort of gearing up for this, and then sort of continued watching them even after I saw Battle because I didn't have time to get all the rewatches in that I wanted. I rewatched There Will Be Blood, a movie I've seen probably half a dozen times. I gave it the bump to 5 stars. It was like a strong 4.5. I don't really know why I was ever holding back on There Will Be Blood. Like it's obviously like one of the great American motion pictures
It
of the
is, just
last like
is.
25
I
years.
feel
Um,
I've probably brought this up, I think, because Phantom Thread was at the top of my list. I rejiggered the whole top favorites, and then There Will Be Blood just wound up over it. I wasn't even thinking about it, when I was rearranging the list. I wasn't thinking about them in terms of Paul Thomas
yeah.
Anderson. But then I was putting some of the lists that I had in different orders, like I think my Bergman's flipped around a little bit or whatever. And I was like, man, that's so fucking boring because duh. Like you just watch it, you're like, duh. This isn't
But
very interesting. Not that
I
it's
have
not an
it.
interesting movie,
Yeah, but
but
sometimes it's just the truth.
it,
I have it at. I think it's 6. I could really go either
it's
way.
psychotic. Which is
Mm.
not to say that the movies you have above it are not deserving or not great, but
Just
like it just
it's
is.
it's a
An
5-star
interesting,
picture is the
yeah.
is the thing is that it's sixth best in his career. Fifth or sixth. I could really go either way between that and Phantom Thread. Uh,
Mm.
but it's the one that I referred to it as the outlier of his filmography last episode. That one to me is the one that's about hatred instead of like a strange sort of love. And I mean, it's just beyond reproach in pretty much every sense, but it holds me at a bit of an
Mm.
arm's distance. Deliberately so, but I like
Yeah.
being in the interior of these worlds that Paul creates a little more than that.
I think that like that's an interesting point actually about There Will Be Blood. It's like we've been talking about all these Paul Thomas Anderson movies and how they're kind of about, making a choice to sort of either reject like so sort of reject society or reject kind of your group and basically finding or coming to find kind of communion and connection through like reject through letting yourself kind of be a part of something. And There Will Be Blood is like it's interesting because obviously it's a movie about sort of a deeply antisocial person who kind of willfully backs away from anything that could potentially save him. But it's interesting because there's not really a counterpoint to that in the movie. Like even Eli like is this deeply
He's
insecure and
probably
sort of like
worse
flawed. Yeah, exactly.
because he
You get
doesn't
the
even believe
sense,
in anything. Like,
yeah,
Hmm.
you get this sort of strong sort of insidious sense from him that like, he's racked with guilt and with shame that he can't like even begin to approach like from in a meaningful sort of healthy way. Um and so yeah, it is in a lot of ways like it's one of the darkest movies that Paul's made, and like quite a kind of a sharp counterpoint to something like Battle, which to me reads as one of the most optimistic movies he's made, at least one of the most sort of like looking forward with purpose to a better way of
I
being,
think the key to that, not to jump into that movie too much, but the key to that and like the very Paul Thomas Anderson-y thread of that movie is the father-son dynamic, which is not even a biological father-son dynamic between
Mm,
Daniel Plainview and HW, where I've said this about Wes Anderson before, specifically a movie like, The Royal Tenenbaums, I think has this, or maybe Moonrise Kingdom a little bit has this. But I've been reading Stephen King. It's a very Stephen King kind of thing about being afraid to repeat the sins of your parents or like growing up to be the same type of shithead that they were. And I think that that
mm,
is all over There Will Be Blood. Just that
mm,
sense of anxiety of like, who are you going to grow up into and what choices are you going to make? Things like that. I think
Hmm.
a lot of the emotional resonance of that movie comes through to me in the momentary tenderness that you see between father and son, and then obviously like the crushing but also liberating dissolution of their connection entirely, I think is something that just registers as being like very central to a lot of these movies. They don't all have a father child, like parent child dynamic, but I think a lot of them do. Magnolia, obviously,
well,
it's
yeah,
all over one battle.
I was about to use that to segue into Magnolia actually, which was one of the other
That's
big
the other one.
rewatches I've done.
Yeah. There Will Be
Yeah, I
Blood.
mean,
Think one of the best American films, and yeah, the fifth best film of 2007.
That's just a
but
psychotically loaded year.
Yeah.
mm,
Hmm.
Magnolia, a movie I've seen. I think I counted this as my 10th viewing of Magnolia, which is sort of insane for a 3 hour movie. But it's just sort of a movie that has been in my life
Mhm.
for a very long time. It was like,
Hmm.
as much as I can ever point to one movie as being the kind of impetus for like
Mhm.
seriously wanting to kind of, take a serious lens to a particular art form, like Magnolia was that when I was like barely 13 years old and I could barely comprehend
Which is
what the
like,
movie was doing.
right. When you're
Yeah.
13, that movie's
Well,
like,
especially
what?
because it's such an emotionally loaded movie. Like
Mhm.
basically every minute of the movie is like pushing some really like overwhelming feelings. Some whether it's a sense of sort of shame, whether it's a sort of sense of like s- you know some. It's just
Like
like a really emotionally
sympathetic
overwhelming movie.
embarrassment for something somebody else is doing, or
Yeah.
paranoia sometimes. Like I think the Julianne Moore scene where she's in the pharmacy has this
Mm,
overwhelming sense of paranoia because they're like whispering over here.
Hmm.
You ask me questions.
mhm,
I described it. I've been sort of half arguing with a friend. who I saw it with, and they were a little lower on it than they had been before. And I was like, the more mature later Paul Thomas Anderson, the emotions are more like a wave, right? They kind of come in, they roll out, they're subtle, but they're profound. Like they really hammer you. There's a lot of force. Magnolia is more like a fire hydrant. Like the force is
Mm.
so fucking focused and concentrated that it's like for three
Yeah,
hours.
it's a turbulent movie. It's
Yeah.
really like tough to watch, but obviously so engrossing as well.
Mhm.
I felt like I was a complete emotional wreck just sort of
Yeah,
seeing rewatching the
yeah,
first time in a few years that I watched it, and it's just like there's a certain point about halfway through the movie where it's just immaculately paced as well. Like you have all of these obvious these different sort of storylines that are happening in parallel, but they're also they're paralleling each other, like not just like things that are happening in one story will reflect things that are happening in other stories. They're so sort of thematically aligned, and basically every single moment, and they all kind of are just sort of build to a head. To a point where you're just cutting from one scene to the next to the next, and there are somehow like there are different scenarios, but they have this equal sense of like devastating, like just floodgate bursting, like I can't do this anymore, I can't take this anymore. Momentous sort of breakdowns, like you have like 5 or 6 different characters having different breakdowns like in a row, um all sort of like buoyed by John Bryan's incredible score. And yeah, it is a movie that like yeah, it lacks restraint, and it has like it tries to sort of unit it tries a little too hard, I suppose, to unify itself a little harder than it
Mhm.
needs to, in some ways, because I think all of the stuff with like the prologue and emphasizing coincidence, chance, fate, all this sort of stuff is kind of unnecessary,
Right.
and in some ways sort of like ties the movie up or kind of frames it, I think, in a way that is a little bit too it draws attention to like something that is already very clear just from watching the
Right.
stories unfold.
I think
Um,
the
eh,
jaggedness of the stories, which comes from a lack of restraint, and like there's literally the biggest thing is like there's the whole like crime subplot about like the worm that very clearly was like written to be something and just goes nowhere. And I think
mm,
those little odds and ends are
Mm,
actually kind of helpful to the movie not feeling as neat as those framing devices might have you thinking that it is.
mm, yeah. Um, but I think like for instance, a lot of it sort of is building up to sort of like foreshadow, the holy fury of the frog storm. And I just like I'm watching it this time. I'm like that doesn't need any like you don't need to be wearing gloves to sort of gently prepare the audience for that. It sort of makes emotional
All you
sense
really
when
maybe
it
would need is
happens.
the weather forecast gimmick that it's doing.
I like the weather forecast detail, actually, weirdly enough. I don't like
I
all of the
really,
Exodus 8 2 like Easter eggs that
yeah,
are in there, but I
sure.
like I like the weather forecast
I like
motif.
specifically when it's like clearing and just like the storm stops in
Yeah.
frame, like they just turn the rain machines off or whatever's going on there, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's very heightened and kind of fantastical.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a really like it was a great rewatch. It was a Sunday afternoon. Just a perfect time to watch it. It was already raining, so it was just sort of like this
I
couldn't be
forget
better.
what a rainy movie it is.
Mm.
Like it's just that whole
Uh,
thing that you're talking about where all the things are racing each other. It's like it's to this like insane thunderstorm that just like intensifies and gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And that's like
mm,
the entire movie is just like super rainy. And I love that
mm.
about it.
Cats and dogs out there.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Could really
contrast
use
that
a
with
cup of coffee for president's sake.
that's so great. Contrast that with another rewatch I did, which was Licorice Pizza, a movie I do like. It was one of those things where we talked about it last week, and I had this sort of feeling like I knew deep down, like having only seen it once, that like it's not a movie that's necessarily going to hold up like most of his other movies do. It is a little bit more lightweight. I still really, really enjoy it. Um, I think like ultimately the thing that lets it down for me is that like it's kind of the end of it, weirdly enough, like the
Yeah.
very end, the sort of embrace that they have.
Yeah.
Because I actually really like a lot of the character stuff that's happening with Cooper Hoffman and Alana Haim, even if those performances are not amazing in terms of like some of the relative quality that you would expect from leads in a Paul Thomas
Mhm.
Anderson movie. But I sort of like the way those characters are crafted. I like this sort of different directions that they're heading in, the way that sort of Alana Haim is grab. I don't even remember their character's name. I think
She's
she's just
Alana,
called Alana.
and
They
then
are the
he's
Haim
Gary
sisters.
Valentine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Gary. It is funny that the whole Haim family is in the movie, including their
Yeah.
Because one of
real
my
parents.
favorite things is when all the girls are singing before dinner. When Skylar Gisando's at the table. I'm sorry, I have to conscientiously object. I'm an atheist.
Bien, bien.
Um, but yeah, so I sort of like the like it's very relatable to me, like being a particular age, being a teenager, and sort of gravitating towards people that are older, and sort of the sense of like being a part of the world that you get kind of what's the word? Not uh there's a word for when you get something from someone by being close to them. Uh
Osmosis,
how my brain's just doing a phrase.
Osmosis Jones.
Yeah. That like sense of let me just restart that bit. Um, I relate to that feeling that Gary has of, like feeling as if you're really older than you are when you're at a particular age, and that you kind of get a sense of like being actually closer to that adult world by sort of attaching yourself to older people. And I resonate with that. Like that was a sort of I felt very similarly when I was that age, even though I wasn't like a wannabe Hollywood star. And like, whereas Alana's like, she's someone who hates having grown up and having been put into this world where she has to go from one sort of shitty waitress job to another and sees no real kind of point to anything, and resonates a little bit with, you know, with the youth that he has. It's a dynamic that's played out in movies up before, obviously, but it is the part of the movie that I resonate with.
Mhm.
And it goes from like fun little um one fun little sequence to the next. The waterbed stuff is also just fun for me as well, because my dad had a waterbed growing up. And I would just like when I was like 8 or 9 years old, every Sunday morning, I would just kind of like crawl into it. I really just that's a particular sort of like nostalgic connection. But anyway, the movie itself, I think, especially off of the back of watching it with after rewatching a lot of these other PTA
Like
movies,
compare it to
um,
Punch Drunk Love.
yeah,
And
it,
it's
it
like, oh
has
gosh, this is so long. It's so long. And a lot of his movies are long and they're good because they're long or good. Yeah, I don't, maybe not because, but they just are. They're both, but yeah, it's hard. I think I have a hard time not comparing it. And it really, for me, comes down to feeling very light, very loose leaf in terms of the ideas, right? And that first hour is probably the part of it I'm enjoying the most because we really are just kind of going from scenario to scenario and picking up these different characters. And then you just
Mhm.
keep doing that. And I feel like Paul just thinks Alana is a better star than I think she is.
Yeah, it is funny rewatching Punch Drunk Love in the middle of this when you're just like, this man's never making a 90-minute movie again, you know? Like he hasn't made one since. That movie is like it's like a thunderbolt, that movie is so it's like so energetic and wiry and fast, and it's like it is basically the sensation of like falling in love and kind of being swept up in a sort of turbulent sea of emotions, because that's sort of how you are inside. You're you know crackling, you're full of anxiety, you're struggling to stay calm at the best of times, and everything is kind of like sort of attacking you from all sides. And it's like it's kind of a um antagonistic feeling that movie has towards the viewer. Like it's so and we talked a little bit about that last week, so I won't get into it again, but it's something that I find really appealing about it. It's this mixture of this antagonistic anxiety that it induces in you as you experience Barry's life, but also this sort of like color rush full of like love in the central relationship that's so like uncomplicated, as a contrast to that. But yeah, anyway, it's been great rewatching all of these
I
movies, and it was
I
yep.
think my note on Licorice Pizza would be that if it because I think it might be the first one he made on this side of 50 years old, or he might have been like late 40s. I'm not gonna play the subtraction game, but he's
I think he was 50, because I
right
remember
around
this because I'm
50.
pretty sure he was born in 1970. So
And
I
I
think
would say that he's going through an evolution that maybe we saw with like Quentin Tarantino. I wouldn't labor that comparison too much, but they're two writer directors, and he's making these lengthier movies. And I would say that like There Will Be Blood is kind of the pivot. The Master, as we talked about extensively on the last one, we're just in a new zone, right? That is not The Master is not a movie he could have made when he was making Magnolia. He just like
Mm,
that would not, he would have
no.
signposted so much of what it meant. He would have called so much attention to the technique. And that's not negative. At least I'm not saying it as a negative, but there is a new degree of confidence. And I would say that as a writer director, he is moved into a zone where to him, the direction, the image, the scene to scene character actor performance, and you see this really, really heavily with Phantom Thread, which I think is a phenomenal screenplay, but it's all in the direction. And I think that that's where we find him in One Battle After Another. I think that he's in a similar place of, again, I'm not diminishing the screenplay. I have said some things in some chats that were said in haste. They may come up again. I don't know. But I think that you would say that this isn't, it's a more direct adaptation than The Master of a Thomas Pynchon novel that is 400 pages of extreme satirical postmodern blitzkrieg. There is a serious opportunity to overwrite this. And he goes the other way. And I think he's been kind of going the other way for several years now into something that is more experiential, that is more in what is it like to sit inside the scenario and be with these people. And in particular, I think with One Battle After Another, pitching a type of movie he's simply never made before, more of a set piece machine. I don't want to go blockbuster, but I'll settle for something like action thriller. I don't know if anybody else really had any like comparisons that sprang to mind. I don't think that you necessarily go into a PTA movie and start thinking about, oh, what does this movie feel like, or what does it remind you of? Licorice Pizza has some natural Dazed and Confused, American Graffiti, but I don't really think I found myself when I watched Phantom Thread thinking like, what are the precursors to this? Because I don't care. I'm so swept up in it. But this one, I left and I thought about two different movies. I'll give you $1 if you can tell me what they are, or if
Is one
anybody
of
else
them
has them.
is one of them by William Friedkin?
No, but that's an interesting. Did you have a Friedkin comp? Were you
Both
thinking of a specific?
both French Connection and To Live and Die in LA.
Well, I see where you're going with that parallel. Certainly, with the vroom vroom, the go
Indeed.
fast. Nya, 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 nya.
Were
The
you
two for
thinking of a
me,
Mr. James Cameron by any chance?
I was not. What are you thinking of?
I was thinking a little bit of T2, which really
Sure.
shows towards the
Yeah,
end.
for sure. Riley, you got a guess? I name dropped one of these two in probably just the chat with Morgan and Cole, which also stars Benicio del Toro, which I can get into the comparison of why it made me think of that, which is Denis Villeneuve's Sicario. I don't think this is,
Sicario, yeah.
it's not particularly like Sicario, but I think it speaks volumes that I'm talking about this like kind of blockbustery, exciting hit movie, and I'm like my brain is on super bleak. The government is fucking us all. Denis Villeneuve pre Blade Runner stuff. The other one is Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men. That's the other
Yeah.
movie that this made me
Yeah.
think of
Mm.
very heavily.
Oh
Just
yeah,
people
absolutely.
fenced
Another
in,
another
the
car
the
chase movie.
decay. Yeah, no, yeah, right. Those long takes, but where the long takes are like balletic and call almost no attention to themselves, and you are just immersed in the thrum of this extremely modern place that you're in. But I just think of Sicario, super digital movie, right? Very modern, very 21st century. Children of Men, obviously early 2000s or mid to 2006, I think. But still, like at that time, Children of Men was the first movie that I watched after going on quarantine for COVID. I remember watching that movie and being like, yep, that was a good one to pick because it just felt prescient. The idea to me, the connection here is not only that Paul Thomas Anderson's never made a movie like either of those two in his entire career, but he also has not touched this century or millennium since Punch Drunk Love. He has been in period piece mode, and now he comes out swinging with this shit, which was, I
Yeah,
think,
and
bold
even
and seamless.
even Punch Drunk Love could be said at any time
I
that they
I actually
have telephones and television.
I was observed. One of the things. So Punch Drunk Love, a movie that very centrally has a phone booth scene, the Verizon
Hmm.
thing, and it turns on. This movie very centrally has a phone booth scene.
I was like, where
Well,
in the
it's
valley did
interesting,
he
like
find this?
it's interesting
I
how
mean, the
like
valley
very
hasn't
how
changed,
current the
so
movie feels, like how obviously relevant to like the current moment the movie feels, but also how clearly like Leo's character is sort of a directorial stand-in as well. He has this sort
Yeah,
of like he lives in the past. He has this weird like he doesn't even know how to comprehend an iPhone. Um,
right.
yeah, there's this sense of like obviously
Pull it
it's a
down,
huge
click the
underlying
lightning
current to
bolt.
the movie. It's a it's a huge undercurrent to the movie, right? Like the sort of the present moment being like a part
Yeah,
of a cycle essentially that carries itself
yeah.
across
What
generations.
is it
And
like to
each
be a Gen
generation,
X dad of Zoomers?
mm,
Mhm.
yeah, there's some really interesting stuff in this movie about like kind of the the relationship between sort of like the revolutionaries across generations, where the cause stays the same, but the means and the like the way of interacting and communicating and like effectively actioning changes.
I
And
don't want to labor
there's
this because I think I'm the only one that's read it. So I will just briefly say that to me, this feels less like an adaptation of Pynchon and more like a reaction or an extension, a continuation of his work. So Vineland was published in 1990, which would have been the start of the decade where Paul Thomas Anderson showed up. I just made that joke about Gen X. This movie, if I really wanted to put like a ribbon on it, is almost like imagine you're 55 and you're trying to convince your two daughters how cool Thomas Pynchon was. You're like, oh yeah, man. So I was in college and I read this book, right? And it's like about all this stuff, and they're half fucking listening to you, right? It's like this thing that you remember, and you're trying to pull out the pieces and talk about why it meant something to me and what it how it spoke to me and where my life went because of it. And how those seeds both do and do not take root within the next generation. Like we are now living in something quite like the reality, or the I should say in reality, we are now living in something like the fantasies of Thomas Pynchon. He's got a new novel coming out. There's a really good New York Times review of it that you can go read, where it's just like, what is it like to read a Thomas Pynchon book in an era that is really Pynchon-esque? And I think that that is sort of where this movie finds itself is like, hey, the absurdity and the satire of 1990 is now real life. Smiley face. Not to say that this movie is like that grounded. It certainly has its fantasy elements, but
Well,
I mean,
it's kind of that grounded for like the first 45 minutes,
one of the
which is
yeah,
first
really
images in this film
structurally
is
intriguing.
a detention camp where Hispanic immigrants are wrapped up in aluminum blankets
right,
in California.
right.
Which is, you know,
Feels
some
real heavy right now.
it
yeah,
does, but that has always been the case in this
Yeah,
country for a
but
very long time. Which
especially
yeah, but it's also like it also like because
Can we
he's been
say
cook.
that this movie sort of acknowledges that because these sequences are flashback? These are meant to be
Yeah,
15, 20
Mhm.
years before the events of the movie really begin. So
Right.
the idea is it's been going on, you know?
yeah.
what I think
What I
I
was about to
found
say is
interesting.
I
Sorry, you go
wonder
ahead.
if the time jump was in the original sort of ideas of what he was cooking because I know he's been working mulling over this idea in some form or fashion for like the past 2 decades.
The way
So I
that
wonder if it's
Pynchon
just like
writes is very digressive. So you tend to like you're going along with somebody on a thing, something's happening. You meet a character, you learn that character's backstory. That character introduces you through their backstory to another character, and then you get their backstory, and you're in this like
Mhm.
kaleidoscopic backflash whirlpool thing that he likes to do. So it's
Mm,
interesting that we're approaching that almost more linear, right? By just saying we're going to devote the entire cold open of this, in essence, to the past and then
mm.
bump it. It's more of a conventional way, but it definitely gets the ball rolling. You're like, whoa, okay, we're here, we're going, here we are. We're
It's
showing up at the meeting
interesting.
with explosives.
It's interesting because it's not. I mean, unless please correct me if I'm wrong, because I sometimes do forget details like this. But it's not immediately contextualized that way. I don't think as a
That you're in the
flashback.
past.
Yeah,
Well,
like
I mean, you just sort of know from
The
trailers,
marketing,
like,
and he doesn't have the
okay.
robe and the
See,
mustache. He's
right.
more clean
See,
cut.
this is what happens when you're someone like me who just deliberately avoids all that stuff and
yeah.
basically went into this mostly blind.
I
Um,
would have loved to do that.
it's interesting because like you open with this, like you say, this really like striking image and setting, this opening scene that has this kind of immediate contemporary relevance and urgency that I'm sure like all the critics are like tripping over themselves to kind of draw attention to.
Oh, they are.
Um, and like, of course, coming off the back of a PTA rewatch week, it is especially striking to see a film that so immediately evokes the current day. But what I found
Mhm.
interesting was that yes, there's this sort of time jump, and there's this sort of sense of past versus present and aging. That's kind of a huge part of the central characters, like of Leo's character and his story. But like, there's no clear, like, it doesn't ever at any point give you a clear indication of what the year is at one
Mhm.
time and another. There's a 16-year passing of time that's alluded to, but this an opening sequence could be at any point in the last 10 years,
Yeah,
and
they've
then
got
the
cell
16 years
phones that they're
later,
using to detonate explosive devices. So you know that
yeah,
it's the 2000s ish,
yeah,
right?
and then in
No,
the
no
16
earlier.
and then in the
It's
16 year later period at the end of the film, like Leo is very clearly using a not even the most recent model of iPhone to
Right.
Which
as
I
well.
think
So
is just
there's
more
it's
reflective
it's
of
worth it's
how
worth noting.
slow aesthetics change now.
yeah, absolutely.
It's worth noting here that if this is your first time with the show, because this is the first new release that we covered in a while, we're just going whole
Yeah.
hog in here.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah,
Sorry,
we're
spoilies.
spoiling.
it's
Mm.
happening. You're gonna find out a lot about Santa Claus that you didn't know before.
Yeah, and trust
That
me,
got
we were right along for that ride with you, dear
that
listener.
that
All
Saint
hail
Nick
Saint
name
Nick.
drop got a huge laugh. Like it was interesting when you watch this movie with an audience. Like obviously it gets laughs. It has some very silly humor that obviously is partly borrowed from Pinchon, but is also like a melding with
Yeah,
PTA's own
that
sensibility of
sequence
absurdity.
not in Vineland. Those
Mm,
characters, that whole thing,
Hmm.
but it's also very much like the most openly like just ironic, satirical, parodic, and Pinchon like element of maybe the entire movie is this thing that he
mm.
invented. It very
The
much feels like a Pinchon device. Like this is something that would
yeah.
happen in one of his books. It just doesn't happen in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he invented the Tony Goldwyn character's name of Virgil Throckmorton, which is the most
But
Thomas
it's interesting,
Pynchon
right?
name that he did not
It's like
create.
it's like this is this
What a
pet
fucking
project
name.
of Paul's that's kind of loosely based on Vineland, but ultimately has
Mhm.
come to be something which is more of an original idea that continually pays homage
Yeah,
to Pynchon rather than adapting him.
right.
But what I was saying before was like it's interesting, the quality when you watch this with an audience, the quality of the laughs and like the tone of them, like how the audience responds to, Saint Nick's white supremacist club, which is played so brilliantly straight at
Yeah.
every single point of
A
that.
semen demon.
Um,
Yeah.
God,
yeah,
this is a good time to mention that this is the
Oh my
funniest movie of
God.
the year.
Oh,
Um,
dude, it's not close.
and it's you get the opening of this movie is like very serious, grounded, like we are moving
Yes.
like a thriller, and then it goes into a Sean Penn
sure.
boner joke
Yeah.
within that first like 15 minutes, and you're like, oh, there's Paul. There he is. I found him.
The
Seeing
the
that
the
boner in
visible
IMAX
bulge took
70
me out.
millimeter was really something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Mm.
for a second I was like, I struggle with audio mixes, especially and stuff with like Atmos sometimes.
For sure,
So
for
I'm like,
sure.
did
Give
she
me the
say?
subtitles, please.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like, did she say what I? And then and then it cuts to like the shot from above of the pants tent, and I was like,
It,
she said what I thought she said.
it's really great how every single time you see Sean Penn in this movie, he's looking visibly worse than the last time you saw
Yeah,
him.
which
Did you
Yes.
kind of
see
feels
that
like
photo?
seeing Sean Penn intermittently in like press junkets and stuff.
Yeah, have you guys seen
Yeah.
that photo of him with Leo and Chase and Paul outside one of
Yeah,
the
I've seen
posters
this
in
photo.
LA?
Yeah, where
Where
he's just fucking
fucking
toasted.
he looks like fucking Wile E. Coyote after the acne blew up on his face.
Yeah. It's
It's one of our best Hollywood nut jobs.
I want to keep one foot
Uh,
planted so that I can say this and pivot back, but you're right about the Sean Penn thing being funny. There's also a scene at the grocery store that's, for instance, you like black girls. I
Oh
love them.
God, that to me was
Yeah.
like that
Oh
took me
boy,
out.
here we
oh
go.
I
The
was
yeah.
like,
look on
where?
Leo's face in that scene.
Leo's face is so
Well,
perfect
He's
in
I
that.
mortified.
questioned at that moment if if specifically his character Bob Ferguson, I don't know if he's calling himself Bob by that point or not, the
Ghetto
Rocket
Pat.
Man, Ghetto Pat,
Hmm.
I don't know if he's quite aware that that is Lockjaw because they've met. He knows who that guy is. So there's like some faint recognition that I think starts to happen there. That
Yeah.
obviously, but I was just thinking about how you flash to the present, and the first thing that you really see is this exchange between Willa, which is Chase Infinity's character, and Leo and Bob, Leo's character, as she's about to go out with her friends. That entire exchange, I laughed at everything he said. Every fucking word out of Leonardo DiCaprio's mouth for like that 5 minute stretch had me in stitches, which was such a fun pivot from the thriller into the comedy.
It's
And
the
and
first time I've laughed at a pronoun joke.
the,
It's
Yes. I
the
just want to
way
be
he was able
respectful.
to sell that. The way he
Yeah.
was able to sell that because like not for any particular reason. I just generally like those things don't land in movies for
Oh,
me
because
like
they're usually
ever.
tired.
yeah,
Yeah, they're usually very like obvious and dumb. But just Leo is such a fucking
yes.
mensch
He's a
the way he
savant,
sells it.
man.
You,
Seriously.
Yeah.
well, you because like just in that delivery and Chase Infinity's delivery of like they them, it's not fucking hard. Just you can
Right.
tell that they've had this conversation about this person 5 different times at
Right.
least,
This
and it's not
person
that
whose
it's
name
not
is
that he's
Bobo.
yeah, and it's not that DiCaprio's character is like ignorant or refusing to learn. It reads to me like he has literally forgotten that these
Right.
conversations have taken
He's
place.
Like,
I
fucking
mean, he's
fried his
dude,
brain.
smoking
He
all
doesn't
fucking
remember the
yeah,
day.
time.
yeah,
He's on the fucking pipe all day long. Like, of course he
yeah.
forgot.
Puffing on the vape in the PTA, in the parent teacher conference.
Oh, I think the hardest I laughed in this whole in the
When he
whole movie.
starts crying at the
Well,
teacher.
that was good, but I think he's like, oh yeah, we got the greats up here. We got Abe Lincoln. We got Teddy
Franklin.
Roosevelt. Oh, the Grand Wizard himself, Benjamin Franklin.
You tell them about all that. You guys talk about the Philippines.
And the teacher just has to be like, yeah, we do. We tell them.
Just
Oh
the, I just want to quickly pivot to my back foot to that first part of the movie because if we leave that part of the movie without talking about Tiana Taylor, we
yeah,
have not
Hmm.
gotten started off properly.
Mm.
Fascinating performance here. I think there's a case to be made, underused. However, clearly that is the gist. As I was reading this novel, I thought about Inherent Vice a lot because you're with this kind of washed up hippie guy, and it seems like it's going to start in a hey, I need to learn all the context to figure out where my girl who is missing went. In the book, that character's name is Frenzy. In the movie, her character's name is Perfidia Beverly Hills, which
10 out of 10. I
Love it.
think.
too busy being a revolutionary, but clearly the calling there is drag king or queen.
The this performance, like this may be, I don't know, it's really hard. Like Chase Infinity's great, Sean Penn's great. This may be the performance of the movie, just in terms of the impact that it has so quickly, and then the
Hmm.
shadow that it casts over the
yes,
rest of the movie.
Yeah.
thinking
Um,
about maybe
uh,
like Ryan Gosling in The Place Beyond the Pines. Just as
mm,
that's not the same, but it's that
mm.
same kind of like they leave and they never you're never rid of them.
Yeah.
Mm.
How
It's
do
like
you sell an
you
entire
know
character?
exactly. Like this is obviously going to be a movie led by Leo DiCaprio. Just you know that because he's Leo DiCaprio, he's going to lead the movie. But apart putting that to the side, those first 20-25 minutes watching the movie, she is the protagonist. She is front and center
I
of the
think Leo's
story.
almost always two in this movie. He's two behind her and then he's two behind Chase. Like that's not true. He is the lead, but you know what I mean? Like there's just a degree to which
Yeah,
this movie's always kind of playing with Yeah, but he's like a bumbling incident. People always talk about like the incidental nature of Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. Like Bob is completely incidental to this movie. He
It's
just is.
the Kurt Russell and Big Trouble in Little China thing.
Yes. He's just a guy
Mm.
we're fucking cruising around with trying to figure it all out together.
But yeah, like so Tiana Taylor, like she immediately leaves such an impression. Like she immediately is so
Mhm.
captivating and so forceful in this
Yeah.
performance.
Mhm.
That that
She
is
feels
so key.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Like just at any time she's about to cut some dude's throat open. You're like,
No,
whoa.
it's like a performance that leaves your eyebrows burnt off, like when the pan goes up
Hmm.
in flames all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
And as yeah, immediately so sort of like volatile and just gripping and like absolutely the focus of everything. So much so that the way that she exits the narrative, the circumstances around that, especially kind of when she's introduced and kind of embodies the principled leader sort of role, like with this sort of chaotic sense of impulsivity too, but like still someone who is ultimately, leading the charge in a sort of meaningful way to end up exiting the story in the context of, being a rat,
Yeah.
essentially turning her back on all of that in the most sort of dramatic way, the most sort of like meaningful betrayal you can possibly
I
do.
really
Um,
like how this movie takes any potential gray area out of this. The novel flashbacks, right? So it takes you a while to kind of piece together the how, what, when, where, why of the betrayal and what's going on there. And I think the novel really leans into that character, her attraction to Brock Vond, which is the book's same version of Lockjaw here. They're
Yeah.
different guys, but that's the same role. It's the same idea.
Hmm.
She's like into him. She's like, I want his body, right? And that is how she winds up where she winds up, and he plays it to his advantage. Here, you're like, I mean, it's unceremonious. Basically, she realizes it's your neck, or you can name names. And she's like, well, I guess I'm going to name names. And you're like, whoa, there's
mm,
no real softening that for anyone. You're
mm,
just like, oh yeah, she just betrayed the cause.
mm.
And you see her struggling with that. You see her struggling with being a bad mother,
Hmm.
at least in like the traditional sense, because you get that she's suffering absolutely from postpartum depression. Like that is happening to her in real time.
so
and it happens
so
in
there's
like sort of Boogie Nights-esque montage. I
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
this is like the
yeah.
most,
Oppenheimer came to
yeah,
mind.
this feels like the most in touch with his younger self
Mm.
that he's been in a while in terms of his
there's this
movies.
there's
But
this really interesting quality. Sorry.
uh it's like it deals with postpartum so empathetically,
Hmm.
which I was surprised that that was an element of the movie at all. But two, it's like it speaks to how deft he is as a writer and a filmmaker that you can come across that section of the movie and handle it with that level of care while also essentially being part of a montage. It's
Yeah.
just
Mm.
really fascinating how
And
the
and to
first
have
part of this
that
movie
like
works.
and to have that like 5 minutes after, my name is Jungle Pussy. Your money pays for my bombs.
Yeah, iconic.
Iconic.
The the little wrinkle I'll add to that scene, that in the quote unquote montage, where Leo's the looking after their daughter, and she's sort of like so disconnected from that. It plays quite differently.
Yeah.
Or I haven't seen the movie twice yet, but like just reflecting on it after watching the whole movie, it plays differently when you sort of know the nature of Charlene slash Willa's
Mhm.
parentage. You know that she
Hmm.
is
Yeah,
Lockjaw's child, and you wonder to a
right.
certain degree, or at least I wonder now to a certain degree, how much Perfidia suspects or knows
I,
that, and the way that plays into her frostiness in
did
terms of
anyone
approaching motherhood.
I've read it. This is a thing that happens in the book. In the book, it's left ambiguous, but the question is raised, right? You're like, well, it
Hmm.
could be. So I clocked pretty instantly, like, well, she's fucking him. She's fucking him. Here comes the baby. Like the editing leads you to it, but no one really says it. Like,
Mm.
did you guys like feel that when you
Yeah,
were watching this or
I
I
caught
felt
on to it pretty
cognizant of it.
fast.
uh
I didn't know how much the film was going to be about that.
yeah.
I
Mhm.
initially kind of thought that was just there as a sort of Here's something to
when you
mull over while the
see
rest of the movie happens, but
when you see Penn confront Leo in the store, I think it's pretty clear. It's like, okay, at the end of the day, this whole movie is going to boil down to two guys fighting over the same two women, the mother and the daughter, in essence.
Yeah.
The claim, whose woman, whose child, Dale Gribble, Nancy Gribble, John Redcorn, Joseph,
indeed.
Circle. The one thing that I will throw into the ring here, and it has a really impactful, I think maybe the most impactful line of the entire movie, which happens far later between Leo and Benicio del Toro while they're driving around drinking their Modelos. Early
Yeah.
on, and this is in the trailer, you see the mother confront him, and it's like, you are so wrong for my daughter. And it's a older black woman saying this to this white hippie, right? And there's kind of two folds to this. One fold is the idea that this revolutionary lifestyle doesn't really gel with being a mom, doesn't really gel with being a parent, right? You want to burn down the world, but like we got a kid, man. What are we going to do there? So there's this idea of like, he's more ready to settle down than she is, even though we don't, the whole nature of the Leo character, I think, especially through the marketing, it should have been obvious. Anybody that saw the trailer, like, he's a fuck up. But to see him as like the more nurturing present is like, ooh, okay, yeah, interesting dynamic that this guy who's like a burnout fuck up is the closest thing this girl's ever going to have to like a legitimate day to day, day in, day out parent. And then two, the racial implication. So I've said this already. We all know Paul Thomas Anderson is married to and has children with Maya Rudolph. So there is a
Hmm.
real sense of personal anxiety about being the white boy who is maybe wrong for the daughter, wrong person to be raising this child, and like a little imposter syndrome. Do I fit in here? Am I good enough to be doing this? Do I have the tools for this? Based on this, you guys
Mm.
probably know the line that I'm referring to by now.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
I do.
like that shit reached up and slapped me in the face. It's later
Yeah.
on. He's been separated from the daughter. He's with Benicio del Toro, and he says, "I don't even know how to do her hair. I can't even help her do her hair." Because the idea is like the mom is out of the picture because she's a rat and she was in witness protection. She dipped and no one knows where she is. They're in hiding. So she doesn't have her mother, but it's literally just like this barrier of any dad with any daughter, I think, would have a similar barrier, would talk a single dad kind of thing. And then amplified by the fact that she is a mixed race child, that her hair is literally of a different texture, consistency, needs different products, needs different tools, that he's just like, I'm doing my best and my best sucks, man. And it just,
Hmm.
that really hit me. I mean, to me, that is the most striking line of the entire movie. Barely has anything to do with anything, but you can just, at least, I don't know if I'm overreacting or doing too much psychoanalysis on the director, but that just felt like a very personal note to me,
No, it
knowing what
hit
we
me
know
in
about
very
his
much
life.
it hit me in very much the same
Yeah.
way.
Ultimately, I think like the whole movie is sort of about that. And I say this
Two
like I know
different
what
white
it's like
boys
to be
having
a
two very different reactions to the thought of having a black child, really, is
Mm.
what a lot of it boils down to.
Yeah.
not to say this as if I am a parent, but like it is that I think the movie's sort of fundamentally about that moment when you're a parent and you get to the point where you realize that you can't, you know, you're not really in control. Not only you're
For
not in
sure.
control of their life anymore, but
Yeah.
She's
also
got a
like you
phone.
can't you
Hmm.
can't actually like do anything for them anymore. You
Mhm.
can't save them, you can't be there for them. Like even if you wanted to, or even if it like made sense, there's a certain level of separation that happens at a certain point that's
Yeah.
kind of irrevocable. And like
Mhm.
fundamentally, like for Willa, that's what this movie's about. So she has to be the one to save herself. She has to be the one to kind of like realize and step forward into adulthood and step forward into full independence. Like she can't, she like doesn't have his support. Like she has his support emotionally, but he can't. There is this barrier between them that's just
Mhm.
not traversable.
Right.
The only thing you can do as a parent is give your kids the tools to survive and hope that they'll be better than you.
Mhm. For sure.
Look at Regina Hall's face when you hear the
She's so good in this movie.
She really
yeah.
is.
I needed
A
more.
To me, the
really, really
biggest
good.
missed opportunity of the entire picture
Hmm.
is Regina Hall's character. I feel like I've talked about the book already more than I meant to, but the character that she's based on is definitely meatier. Like she's around more, there's more activity. In the book, the whole nunnery thing that they go to is like
Hmm.
it's like a ninja thing. They're like kunoichi female warriors or some shit like that.
Terrible what passes for a ninja these days.
It just, yeah, she is so good, but this is really my biggest sticking point with the entire movie. It's really down to Chase Infinity's character, and it's down to Regina Hall's character. I think those two women are outstanding in this movie, and I don't think either character has the material that they really need for this to be like full all-timer status, which I know is like just a thing that I'm dropping in the middle of this conversation, but that's about where I'm at with it. That's where, to me, like, this is so much more sentimental and family driven and like real character emotion conflicts than anything in Pintron's world. And I think that we maybe glaze over some of those things, even though that's such a wise choice to be making here. We are moving so fast that I don't think that we always get a chance to marinate with some of these things. Give me one or two more driving scenes with Chase Infinity and Regina Hall where they're just
Mm.
shooting the shit and getting to know who each other are, feeling each other out. Something like that, I think would have gone a long
Mm.
way for me.
I mean, I would certainly be on board with releasing the PTA cut in this instance. It's interesting to me that the movie because it does make a particular choice to move at the speed and with the sort of alacrity that it does. It's almost a 3 hour movie as it is, you know, it's gonna make whatever money it makes. I'm sure Paul had final cut. He made the choice here to make this
Mhm.
almost entirely propulsive. The only downtime we have is in the window between, the PTA meeting and the part where Lockjaw blows Bob's door down. That's really
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
only part of it where it's not moving. And that
There's a
feels like a
part
conscious choice.
where there's a part where Willa kind of gets snared in the web, and that's all like moving still, but you're like holding your breath, like like the van has gone over the side and is about to crash into the water. I'm referencing Inception, where like it kind of like I think right there, but that's where the story goes from like boom, 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 boom. So suddenly we're counting every second together, and so it's still moving, time is still passing, but you're waiting on the paternity test to,
Mm.
and then she's in the car with old boy in that Dodge Charger.
Those lines add up. You're in trouble.
Sean
In
Penn
terms of
is
pay,
on rare form. Rare
I, I
form.
think I, I
Mhm.
think it is his best work.
I can't argue with you at all.
Yeah, I think it is, honestly.
What
I
a,
like
I,
I've never seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High all the way through, but enough to know that Spicoli is in its own little corner of his particular career, and he was very
Kanye
good at.
clears.
Well, yeah. I mean, for one, it's something he's extremely well suited for.
For
Every time
sure.
that Sean Penn has tried to play like an everyman, a la
It
Mystic
doesn't
River,
work.
it's fucking weird
mm,
because the dude just looks and gives weird and
mm,
wiry and kind of on edge always.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
mm,
I think the second best I would shout out is either Fast Times at Ridgemont High or The Game, where he's like the guy who's on edge all the time like that, but is trying really hard
Mhm.
to cover that up for the subterfuge of the thing that's going on with his brother character. But yeah, it's like virtuoso work
And
here.
in this, he's just like such a perverted little freak because he's turned on by black women. He's got like a fetish for them. And yet he wants to be part of this Christmas Adventurers Club where everything has to be so goddamn Caucasian.
Mhm.
To the
Well, yeah,
point
I
where
mean, it's
even if
like
you have a mixed race child, they will rub you out.
What
every
race?
every when
Well,
it's
there's
like
no easy way to say this.
God. Well, I mean, it's like every anti-gay lobbyist in the world has been outed as gay.
Right, for sure.
So
Hmm.
it's just like, the mirror is always right there.
Hmm.
I
And
really think that character, it's one of those interesting cases. I'll reference a movie that I don't really care for, that I don't think a few of us care for. Cole does, because he's weird. It has that Branagh and Tenet thing where I actually think the best characterized person in the entire ensemble is Lockjaw, because he's such
Yeah.
a mind fuck of a character. Because like you're saying, it's this fetishization, and I think he loves her. I think he looks at her and sees a badass warrior bitch that he idealizes that, power and that strength. And he is such a dog on a leash, right? For the
Hmm.
military, for these Christmas adventure guys. So he sees her as somebody who is like free, right? And he wants to put her in the kennel because he wants to own her like a trophy. And it's, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like it's this whole ball
No,
of wax that
it's
he
like
is
the
always
most
chewing on.
Freddie Quell level of like
Yeah.
Mm.
in
Yeah, he has this
weird,
Why
thing.
are you walking like that?
yeah, weird
Yeah.
The
interior
Vince
and
McMahon
exterior.
walk is
God.
hilarious.
He has this thing where it's like he's just trembling ever so slightly, like at the thought of her, when he
Yeah.
sees her, like when
When
you
he sees
see,
like
yeah.
Leo like grab her ass for 1 second, he's like ready to start fucking doing I don't know what.
It adds an extra sort of layer of comedy to the scene, where he's trying to get in with the Christmas adventurers, and he's like so transparently like fumbling, like so transparently like
Hmm.
completely not like the right fit for them at all, like
Right.
Hmm.
so failing the test at basically every juncture,
Well,
and
I
they're
did
just doing
purchase
their
a jet ski, and
that was great.
it was defective, and I refused payment.
Okay, so is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. like is that who he's basing this on? Because that's the vibe that I got.
Yeah,
It's
as
I
soon as
like
you said that the other day, I was like smacking myself in the head like that. How did I not see
there's
this while I was watching the movie?
Yes, but I
It seems so
also
obvious.
see a lot of Michael Flynn in this,
Yeah, I can see
yeah,
that.
but
It
it's
it reminds me
but
of like a
especially in that
comedy
fuck ass
routine version of
haircut.
RFK. There are those trips
yeah.
where he's like RFK is your trip. He's like, you took too much. Don't tell Cheryl. Like, and it's like that is the energy of this performance to me.
Yeah.
But
It's
there is
not.
like Cole
Yeah.
mentioned the walk, but like I think there is a lot of Vince McMahon, especially in like the
Oh
last
yeah.
handful of years that he was
Yeah.
on camera a lot of just like
It's.
this
I think
wiry
his
old man that is ready to jump at any given moment.
I really love how this guy is like he's the ultimate he is Darth Vader in the first Star Wars movie. He's the most dangerous guy on the board and he's a lapdog.
Yeah,
Like he's brutal. He's like the big man on campus, but he just kowtows and is honestly kind of a wimp when it comes to having any authority or like any sort of, he's a cog in a machine and that's all he's ever gonna be.
you can
Yeah,
deflate
this
his
is
ego so easily. Like, why is your shirt so tight?
Yeah.
I'm
It's not because
not
I'm homosexual, if that's
I'm
what you're
not
implying.
I'm not gay, if that's what you're implying. Not homosexual. This okay,
Could
so
have
Daddy
fooled
daughter
th
me.
games. Is that
Could
what
have
this
fooled
is?
me.
this is the first Star Wars movie. This is A New Hope. We just spent an inordinate amount of time following Obi-Wan around as he tries to figure shit out.
Somebody compared it. Oh, it was well, I'll use this to segue into the other elite tier performance in this motion picture. Because somebody compared it to The Phoenician Scheme as another
Yeah,
2025 movie directed by an Anderson about a father and his estranged daughter
yeah.
whose parentage is, in dispute and they're da 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 da. Da. Benicio del Toro might be one of the three best working actors in the biz right now. Can I
Yeah.
say that? Can I say
Well,
that
I
out
He's
mean,
so
loud?
great.
it's he won an Oscar in 2000. It's been true for a while.
Yeah.
But like this motherfucker just shows up in a movie, gives several gallons of gas, and then dips. Like he just
But
everything he does, every choice he makes in this movie is perfect.
I
He,
love I think my favorite thing in the entire movie that anyone does is when he and Leo are parting in the apartment building and he hands him the gun, bowed, and Leo takes the gun and he's like, "Thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Viva la revolution!" And it's either cuts or hard pans to Benicio and he's on the trapdoor and he just goes and he shuts the door.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of this movie, or at least the most ambitious besides the car chase, is watching the movement of the immigrants in real time from
Mm,
the store down for the tunnel out to the church, and to see,
mm,
the riot happening out on the streets, because what happens is Lockjaw needs Willa out of the way so that way he can crack down and, get his Christmas membership. So he asks for a reason for him to crack down on this sanctuary city. So he can go through all these businesses and pull out people left and right. And you see the city fight back, and then you see the false flag guys step in, so that way the pigs have
What
an
a fucking
excuse to
moment that is in this
attack
movie.
everyone.
Eddie Van Halen.
Mhm.
That is
Mm.
like, oh, okay, we're
Can,
here.
And you see a community work together in real time so smoothly to protect
Mm.
these people and keep them safe,
I want to
while
know, I want to
also
That's
jump
fighting back
back.
the pigs as best as they can.
I want to jump back to the first episode of the newly formed version of the First Watch podcast just one more time and say that Eddington fucking sucks.
Facts.
if there's one thing that people take away from this, it's like if it were even possible to lessen your like impression of Eddington any further than it already is, this movie will do it. It's like such a vicious counterpoint in terms of like the acuity and the strength of everything it has to say, compared to something like Eddington, which is just stumbling over itself at every turn to be more
While
intelligent than
also,
you.
to Cole's point, having significantly better filmmaking. And when I think
Mm.
about that sequence where they're basically evacuating and moving all through the apartment, everything that's happening, I love, Riley and I were joking, like, I love Leo repeatedly trying to get a charging spot for his phone and having to
Mhm.
move every 10 seconds. It's just
Bob,
like,
My
come on, it's not safe.
my
He's like,
my
I'm trying to
favorite
charge my
moment
phone.
in
Yeah.
that is when Sensei's trying to introduce Leo to everybody, and
oh,
he even
yeah.
like
Yes.
he holds the baby's hand the way that you
Yeah.
would when
Yeah.
you meet a baby.
Well, that's my favorite detail of the whole thing. Not the baby's hand specifically, but like the fact that there is so much urgency, and yet
Mhm.
Benicio del Toro's character is able to maintain this very workmanlike, just like
Yeah.
straight, like
Zen.
And
not
there's
raising
still
his voice at any point, but also making a point to introduce him to everyone. You know, like every individual person who's a part of
because
this is an
the
actual
community
human being.
because the community is the most important thing, and that is how you will survive living under
Mm.
fascism.
Mm.
One
I
thing
want
that
to,
happens before all hell breaks loose is Leo's at home, he's smoking a joint, high
yeah,
off his mind, watching the
the
Battle
roach
of
blood.
Algiers. And the
He's
the
so mean.
scene the scene that they show from the Battle of Algiers is the most controversial scene in that film, where the old man who's drunk is beaten to death by a bunch of kids for, violating the laws, for being publicly drunk. You're disrespecting Islam. So now you got to pay the price for it. Which, that's the moment where it crumbles in on itself a little bit. And, you kind of question the motives of the revolutionaries,
Mm.
which is what happened to the French 75. They meant well, they got people out of that camp and whatnot. But eventually they just collapsed in on each other because it was just violence, 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 and suspicion. Whereas in this community, you have a much more focused, concentrated effort between everyone to protect each other. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that, like, oh, the community that Sensei has is inherently more effective than the French 75 or whatever, but you have these two generational differences in resistance
Mhm.
on display.
I
And
think in
it's,
that, I
I
don't
think,
know in Battle of Algiers, but I think that's man, I'm trying to remember in the movie if they actually get these lines off because it's one of the most striking things in that movie is this idea of like the revolution's the easy part. Overthrowing the oppressor is the easy part. Figuring out
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to do tomorrow, that's the hard part. How are we going to
Yeah.
live? How do we keep ourselves from just becoming them again?
it's a note that the movie hits on repeatedly is that a revolution is vulnerable. This happened over and over and over again in history, specifically the 20th century, where so much of this was happening, where a power like the power at the head of the United States in this movie is inherently inhuman, and it
Yeah.
decays at the French 75 and groups like it by preying on their humanity.
For
They
sure.
get the bag over the head of the guy who runs the radio
Yes.
station 16
Mm-hmm.
later, 16 years on, who was involved in the French
Mhm.
75 originally. And he's like, he is not moving at all on his principle when he gets held until they mention
Yeah.
his sister. He's
Right.
like, what? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's
Well, and
been
you can't even
because
really argue because you're like, it's not like Bob and Willa are these important targets that are going to be like essential password. I mean, you could argue that Willa, by virtue of being a child, is because of her innate potential to grow into whatever. But At
Luke
that point, it's
Skywalker.
me or it just becomes me or
Mhm.
him. The
Mhm.
solidarity is fucking
Yeah.
axed completely.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
me or
Yeah.
him. Whereas
Also,
that's kind of the Benicio thing is everybody gets out together.
mhm.
Mm.
I
The
was gonna
innate
say
human
in
instinct
that
for it.
team or in that scene where we're inside the apartment complex, compare that to Magnolia, where you're behind the scenes in the television show. Because I think the Elswick camera movements versus the cinematography here are really similar, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
so much more understated and focused and purposeful. I'm not trying to say I prefer Magnolia to this movie, so like I'm not trying to say one is better than the other, but I think it just shows how much he's grown as a stylist and as a filmmaker that
Mhm.
that type of technique is just
It's
more
sort of like,
organic.
and it's sort of like the narrative meets that moment of filmmaking better than it does in Magnolia.
Nothing in Magnolia is actually all that terribly urgent, other than he's got to
Yeah.
pee or something, right? Like everything is
Yeah.
very, the movie is heightening this, whereas this is like the forces of evil are descending on everybody, and he's about to start running and jumping and falling off of roofs and shit in 5 seconds. The other thing to note to me, and I brought up Sicario, and this is where the Sicario comparison in my mind came from. I cannot remember an American studio film with a budget like this. I mean, we just saw Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer, so it's not like it's the first time. It's not even close to the first time. But damn, the US military is evil in this movie. And not
Yeah.
in like a debatable way. You might kind of think they come off as cool, like hard asses, like, oh yeah, they don't take any shit. They just, but like, they are ruthless hunter killers compared to Star Wars and Stormtroopers. These guys don't fuck around. They will blow your face off
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
and
it's
not blink at it.
it's Andor Empire and not
Yeah.
A New Hope Empire.
Yeah. I mean, the only modern equivalent that I can think of in a Hollywood blockbuster for the US military being this ruthless would be Avatar, and that's sci-fi. That's on
Right.
another planet entirely.
Right. And a little bit more cartoonish, right? A little bit more
Hmm.
like, Tarzan, Clayton kind of thing. This
Yeah.
is like, I am a military officer in intelligence and I am grilling high school kids and threatening to lock them in the fucking broom closet if they don't tell me where this girl is. Just because
That
like all of
that
it
dude
being
is
based on a
fucking
whim too,
scary.
all of it like that guy being deployed and doing his
Hmm.
dangerous thing and trying to hurt people and capture people all because of like this guy's personal thing, that just all felt so real to me, like oh yeah, that is
Yeah.
exactly how in the halls of power shit goes down. And to me,
Hmm.
Sicario, it's that institutional rot
Yeah.
of American power brokerage and military and other alphabet agencies that are just, soulless evil fucks who are
I
like,
don't
no,
think
we just have to further the agenda. We got to make sure that
Well,
Folger's stock price goes up tomorrow.
I don't
hmm
think that interrogator actor has been in very much else, but it was also he like he sits down across from one of the teenagers and you're like, that guy exists and he looks and
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
exactly like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
and you do
I felt
not
the
want to
same way
fucking
about the
meet him
Christmas
ever.
Adventurers. All respect to those
Mm.
actors.
Mm.
Yeah. I love Tony Goldwyn in this movie so
Oh,
much.
yeah, for
Tony
sure.
Goldwyn being in this movie is so funny when you think about Scandal for more than 5 seconds.
I
The
don't know
the
her.
Yeah, just to sort of echo what you've been saying, the movie really like does a great job of underlying how much this sort of psychopathic approach to sort of doing things sort of very efficiently and emotionlessly and kind of like in a
Hmm.
very militaristic way is sort of necessary to sustain that system and do the things that they do.
Yeah.
And that is like that's the way that they are able to kind of operate. It's the only
Right.
way that they're able to kind of
Yeah.
No,
operate in the way that they are.
they're all stone-faced. A lot of them are wearing masks and completely covered up.
Hmm.
You know, they could
Mm.
It,
the setting was a little more sci-fi, they could easily pass for like automatons or something.
yeah.
Mm.
They're like the whole area that you go to with Willa near the end, where I'm forgetting what's the name of the native tracker character who drives that
Avanti.
what Avanti. Thank you. I worked at a restaurant
I
for
was
like
wondering
six
if it
years
was like a
called Avanti's,
yeah.
so I should remember that. That would be means up in Italian. Um, uh, uh,
Shame.
he has that crisis of conscience about leaving that girl. And this dude is pretty
Hmm.
ruthless. Like we see him get up to some bad stuff that character. But he just drops her off at this place where like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, more meat. That Lockjaw sent you? Yeah, just put her over there, buddy. This girl, right? Like this
Hmm.
teenager. And they're like, yeah, just fine. We're just gonna, do whatever this group of grown men might do to a teenage girl. I don't
Yeah.
know. Probably nothing good.
Yeah, the 1776 Club, I think is their name.
Great.
Oh
Let's go ahead
God, I
and
forgot
just go
that
ahead
detail.
and drop a couple slurs on the native man
Hmm.
here
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
constantly.
yeah.
before he fills you with shotgun pellets.
I think he had the Christ. He has to sell that whole thing with his eyes, which is pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
does
Mm.
great work.
Extremely
Yeah,
talented.
yeah. And
I don't know.
then the car chase starts.
Yeah, it's genuine. Like we use the word virtuoso over and over again to describe Paul Thomas Anderson, and like this is one of those moments that we will be talking
Mm.
about for the rest of recorded time that art
Ocean
I
is
don't
Waves,
like in
Bob.
favor.
I
Ocean
don't think I
Waves.
was breathing during this scene.
Mm.
I'm trying to think.
I
There,
w-
I feel like there are
uh,
movies that this reminds me of, whether it's like Raising Arizona, maybe, or like a Mad Max movie, maybe.
T2,
mm.
that he,
Do
PTA
we
got mad
get
at his
that much
professor.
POV in T2? Like where you're
I
like
don't
it
think
uses the
so.
landscape so fucking
Mm.
Yeah.
beautifully, man.
What it
I read an
reminded me
interview.
of. No, you go ahead. I'll remember what I'm talking about.
I just read an interview with PTA where he sort of talked about like it was such a process to find the exact stretch of road that they were going to
Hmm.
use for that sequence, and it was one of those
Yeah.
things where as soon as they found it, I don't even know if he specifically knew exactly what he was looking for, but as soon as they found that road, they were driving down it. They were like, "This is where it has to happen." I think he said something along the lines of like the road had to facilitate Willa's like ability to free herself.
Hmm.
And that was the
Yeah.
criteria. And so
Because
they
a
evidently came across this stretch, this undulating stretch
I
of
like
road,
that.
and
You
a
make
and
a
lot
great
of
exactly,
point where like he unloads the shotgun, which enables her
Mhm.
to escape. I think he gives her the key or unlocks one of her
She
cuffs. But apart from that,
she she well she does that like acrobatic thing where she gets the zip
yeah,
tie up around to the front of her and then grabs the gun
and
out of his glove compartment and then runs and
yeah,
goes and gets the keys from
and
him who has
everything
unfortunately
there is
been.
her. She has
Yeah.
to make a
mm,
choice. She has to do it
Yeah.
on her own. She doesn't have any guidance. And one thing that I really like really, really like in that sequence, even though it's small, car door opens. You ever open your car door and you just listen to it goes ding 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 because you left the car door
Hmm.
open? That's the entire fucking Johnny Greenwood score on that piano.
Yeah.
Ding
mm.
ding ding
Yeah.
Oh,
ding
we
ding
haven't talked about the
ding
score
ding
Yeah.
yet.
ding
Fucking
Schroeder
hell.
popped off. Schroeder from Charlie Brown popped
ding.
off.
He surely did.
Zionism be damned, that boy can cook.
That's why this movie is
Like,
revolutionary, but that's another thing entirely.
Burn through his drum
like,
kit down the stairs. That's the score. Like just the whole fucking time.
It's yeah. It what it made me think of that ending set piece in particular, the car chase, was the car chase prisoner transport thing in The Dark Knight where they flip the truck. And it
Mm.
doesn't end in such a hugely spectacular fashion like that set piece does, although it's pretty damn good. Um,
Mhm.
but just the use of Chicago and the streets of that city in like the urban warfare that the Joker wages
Mhm.
on that SWAT team is like that feels like the last time that a particular environment has been factored into a set piece so conscientiously.
mm.
And this is such a California movie. I mean, truly all the way through.
Paul
Not
Thomas Anderson,
not like
man.
Hollywood, not LA, but specifically more like Sacramento area, Central California, a little bit of Northern California. You get a
Just to
true
review,
sense of like the California that's not in the movies all the time.
does he only have the one movie that's not California? And I think it's still Texas masquerading as California. I think it's still in. You just saw There Will Be Blood, so you might be able to answer this. Are they? Where are they? They're in Marfa, Texas. That's where they filmed it. So it's
Mm.
Texas, but I don't think it's meant to be Texas. I don't think the setting of the movie is
I don't think they
Texas.
specify one way or the other.
I think it's
I
California.
know I know I know the brother comes from Wisconsin, right? And he goes south. Oh God, I'm trying to remember now because I think there is a specific
The
moment that it
brother
is
who may
mentioned.
or may not be the brother who is, yeah.
you
He's
know,
got like a little
yeah,
Sean from the movie Birth thing going on.
I
Kind
believe
of
he's
just,
somebody's brother.
he's definitely, yeah. Point being, the Texas
yeah.
one might be the best one. Is I don't know. Well, and Phantom Thread, I guess, is where is that? It's the UK, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
London.
Okay, so there you go. You got two
Can
that are
you
not
imagine
California.
But
Reynolds
I
Wood?
didn't even think of that.
Can you imagine Reynolds Woodcock in the San Fernando Valley?
I couldn't. No,
He wouldn't last a day.
This is not very fucking chic, is it?
no. They would all want to buy his shit though.
Yeah.
They would love him.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my favorite things about that movie is that his clothes are kind of outdated and a little ugly until Alma comes along and gives him a little bit of inspiration again. Like he makes like that fucking like Snow White dress at the beginning, and you're like, "Ooh, buddy, you're about 10 years behind." But I digress.
This gets outside of my area of interest, or
I
not interest,
I I I,
expertise.
I digress. But
I like the
going
part where
back
she
to
poisons him with the mushrooms.
but going back to One Battle After Another being such a deeply, deeply Californian movie.
Yeah. I love just the gimmick, right? It's so clever
Mm-hmm.
the way that she gets him. That
Yeah.
visibility and anybody that's ever, whether you're in California or Missouri or anywhere that's got roads that are very hilly, like if you've ever been in a situation like that, it's real. Like you crest over the hill, you can't see what the fuck's on the other side.
No,
Because
Right.
it's
whatever,
like
anything could be over there.
she stopped and I was like, well, he's not getting out of that. That
No,
there's no way to operate
I am
Yeah.
not much of
there.
a car guy, but I was a big fan of his cobalt blue Shelby Cobra that he proceeded to. There was a part in my head where I was like, okay, so this guy's in like a Challenger Charger Interceptor. It's a police car converted, used for civilian stuff. That's a lot faster than a Shelby Cobra. And then he never actually overtakes. I was like, all right, good, good. All right. Car things all lined up. That's about as much
Mhm.
as I know about cars. Thank you. We
Yeah.
did it.
And that pile of shit that Leo's driving,
Yes.
just puttering along behind them.
Holding on for dear life. And then just like the
Uh,
endless wave of the road going down and down and
Ocean
down and
waves,
down and
pal.
up and up and up and up. And I felt a little nauseous seeing that
mm.
on the big screen.
Sir, what did you just throw out of your car? Some trash. Tom
Yeah,
Cruise.
Where's the
yeah.
TikTok dance challenge for that little shimmy he does at the
It's great. And a few little beers.
Just a few little
Yeah.
beers. And he just does this little
uh,
like impish smile.
Because
He is
It's
he
like
knows he's gonna get
incredible.
out just fine because he has that entire community to support him. So
it's like the exact read in The Last Jedi. I'm like, maybe.
Maybe.
God, he's so bad.
Um, so this car chase sequence builds to, or sort of culminates in, like one of the most tense moments I can remember feeling in a cinema in a while.
Mm,
This like little moment that is shared between Willa and Bob when he finally catches up to her.
yeah.
And it's sort of the culmination of a lot of what the movie has sort of been building about, sort of revolutionary identity and the generation gap and the sort of the flaws in Leo's character and the sort of way in which Will is sort of coming into her own at this exact moment that he's sort of like accepting or learning to accept this sort of like recession from, you know, relevance. And this is just this incredible moment, right, where there's been this recurring motif of like remembering these sort of codes and these sort of ways of communicating that would are ways of proving you are who you say you are. And
Mhm.
like her father is right in front of her, visibly. And yet, there's this level of like of of how like much a part of life this system of like self-verification and of like
Mhm.
protection has become, that
Well,
even in that
particularly,
moment.
she's just been thrown through the loop of
Yeah.
who is my father? Who is
Mm,
this guy? Right? Like this, he's been taking care of me, but I don't know anything anymore. I just found out that my mom's a fucking rat. So how can I
mm.
trust anyone or anything?
Yeah, 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 like her whole foundation and sense of what her family is and where like what the truth is as well, the stuff that he's sort of kept from her and the lies that he's told her,
Hmm.
who are you, who are you?
Yeah. she
Just
can't really
fucking
trust him right away, which is like the saddest detail because you see him so desperately just wanting to run up and give her a hug, but she is
And
locked into assault mode. Like she will blow your
there's a
fucking head
great
off.
there's like the way this is drawn out as well. Like when he arrives on the scene, I feel like there's like 20 seconds that pass, like
Mhm.
long seconds before they even
Well, you're
see
like
each other.
waiting for him to enter the scene from the right. Like you see him come up to her and you know that he's seen the accident scene, so you're like close, but it takes fucking forever for him to even
Mm,
enter the frame. I think you might
Yeah.
even
mm,
cut away, come back, and he still hasn't come in from the right. It takes a
yeah,
long time.
and an interesting little
mm.
detail about that I glommed onto the first time I was well, the only time I've watched it so far was the bolt on his rifle is peeled back.
Mhm.
So even if it wasn't like an enemy that he was coming up towards, he could not fire that gun,
Mhm.
which I think is sort of interesting just about, Bob's competence or lack
Mm.
thereof, but
Yeah.
also just
He
like,
fires that gun a couple times and doesn't hit shit, just gets shot at.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
that's the sniper moment where you're
He
like
truly
you almost think you'll make it.
I don't know
yeah,
if any character has ever accomplished less. The one thing that he really does is he escapes his little shack into the tunnel and he gets tear
Yeah.
gassed and then he gets away, right? And then he
Yeah.
survives by the mercy of others until he falls off a roof and gets fucking caught and then released. And then, yeah, like he doesn't do shit in this
Yeah.
movie,
The
which
only
is
Great
pretty
thing
little
funny.
he gives his
great
daughter a
little
ride
bit of
home. Neither of those
Yeah,
great little
cars
bit
were,
of
neither of those two gar other cars were drivable.
sure. Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that does matter.
But
Everybody
like
else is
he
fucking
can't
dead.
remember the passwords to training. The only thing he can remember, maybe this is the hardest I laughed in the movie, is what's my favorite kind of pussy? Mexican hairless.
Yeah.
Talking to R&B singer Dijon.
It's a war hero, man. Oh, you're
Apol
sorry.
Apologize and
Yeah,
mean it.
just like the cosplay of it all is just hilarious. Like everyone's got all these passwords and identities and stuff set up.
Mhm.
yeah, you get the real impression of what a like not necessarily paranoid, but sort of unstable life it must
Hmm.
be.
And
Yeah.
trying to retain your humanity, because I think so much of this movie is about the inhumanity of the enemy and how, like, you're looking, if we look at Lockjaw as like this central character to understanding the text, he is trying desperately to eliminate, to destroy those things that make him human. His
Hmm.
sexual attraction, his daughter, his feeling of paternal and romantic love towards two black women. Like he's trying to boil that part of himself out so that he can be achieve what he feels is this higher calling, which is like a hilarious, like, so that you can do fucking what, man? Like, what is it that you want to do? You want to knock jingle bells on the fucking door? Like, what? Wear a sweater vest? Like,
And it ends
have a
on
shitty little fucking office? I work in an office
Hey,
building that no one's inside of because of COVID. You could just have a
it,
desk in there, bro.
Uh,
it
my
really is so funny and so curious, like how like visibly ecstatic he is in his final scene to get that
Like
like
an
office
Mhm.
office, like an
space.
office
my
fucking building.
God.
Like
Who gives a
my
What
my
fuck?
my my favorite piece of sound design in the last 20 years is when he closes the door and all the room tone cuts out because that
Yeah.
door is sealed like a glass jar.
And you're very well aware. This is the whole conversation he has with this fucking reconstructed face. Like, it's just like, dude, they are just
yeah.
waiting to fucking put you the
Dude,
shot, the image of him in the incinerator, where he's
Uh-huh.
just like,
It is such
Yeah.
a
I love
pathetic ending
I
for
love
a
Martin Scorsese's
complete
silence.
piece of shit.
it's got a little departed energy maybe to it as well, where you're
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Yeah.
this pathetic fuck. You're finally gonna get it.
And you're just going out in the most loserish way possible.
I love
Mm.
the assistant like goes through the motions of like, oh, forgot my keys.
Yeah. Why don't you just get used to the space and I'll be right back? Two guys in hazmat suits walk in. That's a
It's
very,
great.
even though that is also not in the novel, it is a very Pynchon
Hmm.
thing.
The
The man
Paul's
takes out his
office where you
garbage.
just gas people.
Kevin Tiggy or Tiggy or however you say it, just sitting in his little flannel, being the president of the evil guy club. Love seeing him 40 years after Matawan just being fucking wretched still.
You, oh yeah, just such that whole scene. You're laughing at some points from because it's genuinely funny, but like towards the end, your laughter mainly comes from disbelief and shock. You're like, I cannot believe they're saying these things.
I really enjoy the clarification that, in fact, yes, Paul knew that the character in Licorice Pizza was racist, and the joke was that
Yeah,
he's a piece of shit.
it's that entire thing in a microcosm.
But it's such a more pointed, effective, like,
Hmm.
oh no, you can't, no.
Yeah, I mean,
But
they got
also
like that.
understanding, like, this is how it fucking is. They
Uh
get in their little country clubs and they're just, oh, saying the worst things that you can say.
huh. Hmm. Right in
Yeah,
front of a dead duck.
the only difference is that they don't need their bunkers anymore.
Ah, I
Oh
did
yeah.
some clever editing to go from like the house to like wherever the fuck that concrete hallway was filmed. It's like
Yeah.
the implication this is just like in her basement or something.
Just the idea that the whole of wealthy suburbia is just connected by these bunkers of
Yeah,
evil excess.
I really,
Well, we
really
know it's
enjoy
like
that
that
part of
in
the
South
movie.
Korea because of Parasite.
True.
Tunnels everywhere.
Yeah, I came out of this movie. I think Cole is probably in a similar place. Like the hype machine is running 24/7 and it's loud. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I think even when we get into like the whole VistaVision, 70 millimeter, 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter IMAX, IMAX laser, whatever, all that shit, yes, it's a little cutesy, but it's a dying medium and a
Hmm.
dying industry.
Yeah.
Movie theaters are fucking on their last legs, so they're doing whatever they can do to get people interested. I'm fine with it. But I will say I definitely was a little bit of, I went into this. I only told Cole about this. I was in the parking lot of the theater. I'm like, I'm skeptical. Not that I thought I was not going to like it. Not that Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't have talent, but I was just like, I don't know what it is, but I'm just feeling like I need to release this idea that this is going to be like the generational defining movie. And once I did, I've honestly warmed to this since seeing it. I loved it. I put it right at the top of my list. I haven't seen a lot of the art house fair. There's still a bunch of stuff I'm missing. So of what I've seen, this is my favorite, and I've warmed on it since then. So that's been a nice thing for me. It's not a,
Hmm.
doesn't always go that way,
Mm,
even for a
Yeah.
movie you really like.
Yeah.
I
I do.
I
yeah.
I haven't cooled on the movie at all, but I've cooled on it a little as like movie of the decade or whatever.
Hmm.
Like it's, I did the same thing with Across the Spider-Verse where I came out of it and I was like, that's the last movie I ever need to see in my entire life.
Mm,
Uh, but just more thinking it over and honestly appreciating the smaller details of it more. I'm like,
Hmm.
Mhm.
well, there's room to shift around in a lot of this.
Yeah.
Its rapturous reception is only a good thing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I agree
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, considering how initially like poorly this was projected to perform,
for
like the
sure.
hype train around this has
You're
only been
making
like
a
a real
$100 million adaptation of Vineland?
130.
What?
yeah.
Possibly
That
175.
Why are you doing that?
Because Leo demands a lot of money, and also shooting in California is not
mm,
cheap.
mm. So
I
from
don't
my
think doing
perspective,
anything in California is cheap.
True.
from
I
my
can confirm.
perspective,
I live here.
the the hype train around this, and no matter how like film bro centric it may seem in some ways, has only been like has probably only done it a service. Um, and what do we think about like Oscar potential for this movie? Like, do we really think it's
Cole and I
got
were
legs in that
discussing
regard?
this. Cole and I were
I
discussing this earlier, and I'll let you handle it. I just want to
mhm.
say I don't think it's a juggernaut. I don't see
No.
6 Oscars. I see two.
No.
And if I had to pick which two, it would probably be director and maybe like cinematography are like the two places I would feel the most confident putting my planchette down and saying this is where I see it happening.
I
Screenplay,
could totally see an
yeah,
editing for this.
sure.
I could see score as well for Green
Score,
to
Yeah.
sort of
obviously pictures on the table, actors maybe on the table, supporting actress, assuming that's where they put Chase Infinity. I would say she's the lead, but they would put her in supporting, and if I had to guess. So
Yeah.
it's possible,
mm,
but I don't see it as a juggernaut. I don't. But
No,
could this,
it's not
and this is the question for Cole, could this be
Hmm.
the year that Paul breaks through and finally wins his? Because he hasn't yet.
I have been reflecting on this since I saw this on Friday night, and like in the days up to this, I was like, yes, I am excited. I was genuinely excited for this. I
Mhm.
did toss out the hype cycle because I'm like, well, that's just fucking ridiculous. That's unfair to any movie.
I
Yeah,
will
To
it's
say,
have like
currently like number 38 on Letterboxd's top
and like
250.
no, I'm like
So it's
I'm
like
the person at the orgy telling everyone put your bras back on.
we just need to have
Relax.
a
that that is
10-year
very
gap.
that's very letterboxed though, right?
We
Like it's a
Yeah.
well,
honestly,
very
yeah.
Hmm.
letterboxed movie.
I don't
Yeah.
even want to see 2010's movie on the top 250. If
And,
you could
and
help
and
it. The longer the better. The longer
and
you make it wait, the better.
like someone is gonna scream at me for this, I'm sure. But just like because it's film bro culture, yeah, whatever. It's more the Taylor Swiftification of film bro culture. The idea that you have to see it in every single format. You have to punch out your card, you have to get the 100 album variants for Life of a Showgirl, just like that. And I saw this in IMAX 70 millimeter, absolutely loved it. I'm gonna try to see it in VistaVision if I can. The only thing is that it's like fucking sold out basically at the
Yeah.
Vista.
It's worth
Um,
seeing this, even if you can't get to the celluloid of it all. It's worth seeing
See
this
it on the biggest screen you can.
on a proper IMAX screen if you can, because it is shot entirely in that 1.43 ratio,
Hmm.
which is rare. So
And
if you
it
have
uses
a
it
big fucking
so well.
if you have a big IMAX screen, it will shock
Hmm.
you. You'll be like, oh yeah, no other movie actually uses all this
Hmm.
real estate.
Yeah.
Sinners
That
uses it for a lot. Oppenheimer uses it for a lot. This uses it the entire time.
Yeah.
that shot where it's like Avanti and Lockjaw
Yeah.
meeting at the bottom of that mountain and it gets the
Yeah.
whole
So
Mm,
mountain in frame. I
so
was just like
mm.
citrus coated.
it's like John Ford, David Lean type shit where it's just like
Hmm.
let's use the whole of the frame.
Mhm.
Yeah. You
Mm.
got it, you use it.
I really like there's an image that comes, it's in the trailer and it's early on. They're
Hmm.
walking around this like concrete compound and it's kind of like dusky twilight. So it's like purple pink and it's like the whole wall with the barbed wire on it. I don't know if you're gonna recognize it from what I'm describing because it is such a nothing moment. If it weren't in the trailer, you wouldn't even necessarily think about it a second time. But it's that same thing where there's just such this tall structure all on the screen and it just feels so
Hmm.
imposing and violent.
Yeah. But getting
Mm.
back to, like
Yeah.
hype and reactions, I did love this movie. It's not my favorite of his. It's not my favorite of the year. I could see it, going even higher for me, though, I'm
Mhm.
sure, because it's just such an impressive piece of filmmaking at a blockbuster status.
For sure.
As for the whole awards race,
I think just the narrative. He's due.
then this is the thing. This could be his Departed for sure. That
Yeah.
could easily happen. I think he probably does win director. I think it is the point where everyone is like, for fuck's sake, he should have something by now. And
And
I think
the
I think
direction's the
it's
thing here.
Mhm.
I think the three is going to be Zhao for Hamnet, Coogler, and PTA. And
Yeah.
I'm going to assume Hamnet's pretty good, so I wouldn't be
Yeah.
mad at any of those.
So then there's the open question of, is this a Departed year? Is this a Shakespeare in Love and Saving Private Ryan year, in which PTA is Spielberg and uh Hamnet is Shakespeare in Love? But then you have that thing where PTA hasn't won before, but Zhao has.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
you've
point.
got that interesting reversal.
Yeah.
And I do think that this will do well on a preferential ballot. So yeah, I do think it could win Best Picture.
For sure.
I'm
I
not
think
completely sure, but it feels like a really strong possibility.
I will say that we have not had a buzzy new release of this nature since Sinners.
Yeah.
It feels like I
Mm.
mean, we had Superman, people like Superman, it made some money. You know, there have been some things, but it's like
Mhm.
the calendar in terms of wide releases has been fucking dead. And this is the bell that starts off the season. And
Mhm.
people are going to remember it for that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
that's
money that
true.
it makes will matter. If it can make
Yeah.
150, 200 million, which that's a lot, It's a lot. I don't know that it's going to do that much,
The
but
man tops out at $75 million. Like
and
he is not a
we're in the
director who makes
silver medal
money
territory. There
already.
Will Be Blood is the only one that's left to topple.
Hmm. And it'll
Mm.
happen next weekend, probably easily.
I
Because
think
this
that
movie,
it's if its Oscar chances are hurt by anything, it is that it lacks that clear Daniel Day-Lewis. Leo is not it. He's not. This is not an Oscar performance for. Actually, I'm not going to say that it's not Oscar quality because it's
he'll get a
fucking awesome. He's
nomination.
really good, but it
He'll
is
get a
not an
nomination.
Oscar winning turn because it's just not central enough. It's just not. It's not the movie, right? Chase
Mhm.
Infinity is the movie, and I
Yeah.
think without a clear one of those, it doesn't have the star to get wrapped around. But maybe the star just becomes Paul. It just becomes like, what we
I
gave it to
think the
Nolan, and it's
star I
time
think the star becomes Paul, honestly. Because he's been out and about in a way that like he almost never is.
for
I
sure.
mean, they got Leo talking on fucking podcasts to Jason Kelsey, and I'm like, what is going
Right.
on?
But like we just gave Baker 4 last year. We gave Nolan his thing. Like
Mhm.
we're in that season of, the
Yeah.
director, writer, director, auteur kind of.
Yeah. I just realized this could totally win the new category for best casting.
This is the
Mm.
stunt category next year
It eligible for this year. Next year it's going to be the first time they're handing it out.
for the 26th ceremony.
Yeah, for the
Okay, so
25
this
for
in theory
2025
could be
films.
eligible for a stunt design Oscar. In
Maybe.
theory. I
I
mean,
could
it
see it.
probably would end up going to like a Mission Impossible or something if I had to guess, but
Yeah, but
in theory, it could.
I
There's
I
some
think
good fucking stunts in this.
yeah. Actually, I think no, because casting starts earlier than stunt design.
Got it.
Because
I have
that was
to.
the big joke when they announced stunt design. Because it's like, oh, they made it so that way no Mission Impossible movie could qualify for it.
I have to say, the stuff in Final Reckoning is pretty mind blowing, but
Yeah,
none of it makes me go, how did they do that? Quite like Leonardo DiCaprio falling
Yeah.
3 stories
Just
from that
straight
tree.
up dropping
Just
down a
like
fucking roof.
that is all one shot, and he walks into the light, and it's him.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
how did
And then
you
he immediately
fucking do
does that.
that?
And he immediately does the perfect like getting tased, like fall.
You guys
Like,
just fell off the roof.
it's like, how do you fucking do that? Like, it's just such a
Yeah,
showcase of
first of all,
directing.
is this an adapted screenplay or is it original? I don't know. I have no idea.
It,
I would count it as
it,
It'll be
adapted, but
adapted.
well,
It'll
Adapted.
it flashed, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson at the credits.
Based on their rules, it'll be adapted because
yeah. I mean it's undeniably a Vineland movie. Like anybody that even
Yeah.
if you say it's loose, it is. It is one.
Mhm.
So we'll see. This just doesn't for like Licorice Pizza, there was that moment where it was like, yeah, he had the writer thing. I said this to Cole. I'm like, I would be if he winds up winning for director and not for writer, it's like, oh, that would just be like a surprising legacy thing. Because I just think you always felt like he was going to break in as a screenwriter because he is a screenwriter. But hey, here we are.
Maybe it's because he writes all the scripts on Microsoft Word, which is the most fucking psychotic thing you could do in your life.
Wonderful part of this press cycle,
I've done
learning
that
that
before.
he truly
It's
did
so
write
much work.
or contribute to.
Look, I just didn't know the final draft existed when I was 15.
One of my favorite
Celtics.
parts of this entire press cycle is that Paul Thomas Anderson directly confirmed that he did write parts of or worked on or collaborated on Killers of the Flower Moon. That is official. That is confirmed.
And Napoleon.
Don't care.
I mean, that Destiny has brought me this lamb chop line. That had to come from him, right?
Now, a Paul
There is
Thomas
actually
Anderson
now that
movie, like a little phantom
now
thread
that we
kind of like, yeah.
now that you mention it, there is a weird, I was going to say, there's a weird phantom thread quality to that, to Ridley Scott's Napoleon.
Yeah.
It's the part of it that's the most compelling for sure.
And honestly, there is kind of like a little bit of a connection between Colors of the Flower Moon and this and that. It's this idiot husband who loves this woman and just wants to do right by her, but just can't stop fucking up.
I think the decentralization of Leo in those two movies is striking to me. Where like he is clearly, as Ryley said, like he's clearly going to be the lead. He's clearly going to be the star. And yet,
yeah,
we're kind of shuffling him. We're using him to almost Trojan horse in. Like, actually, this is this person's movie, and that person is Sean Penn. That person is Chase Infinity. That person is.
It's interesting that he's sort of like going in that kind of direction with his career. Like he's made like 3 movies this decade, and and two, at least two or three of them, he is kind of like this sort of like wounded boar sort of
Hmm.
character who's
Yeah.
who's just sort of like so emasculated. Well,
The
Yeah.
not
third movie
emasculated
is Don't Look
necessarily, but
Up by Adam
yeah, well,
McKay.
Well, no, we don't need
it's
to
just
talk about that.
he's clearly someone who picks his projects carefully, is all I'm saying. And so and
Mhm.
obviously has a really
Yeah,
high fee. So it's interesting that this is sort of like a bit of a theme.
Yeah.
for sure.
And it's interesting. His post Oscar run has been really rewarding going from Hollywood. I guess he's not bad and Don't Look Up. It's just a bad movie.
Mhm.
Mm.
To Killers of the Flower Moon to this.
For
It's
sure.
way the hell more interesting than whatever he was doing in The Revenant, where he basically begged his way to a win.
Than what Brad Pitt's been doing since he won for Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm. I
Has
think
Leo
the
ever been
best
bad?
Sure. J. Edgar.
rewatching
Oh well,
um
yeah. And I think
rewatching
I
what's it?
really hate him in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Oh God.
The
Yeah.
Beach. He's bad in The Beach. Bad
Shut the
movie.
fuck up.
Re rewatching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood recently really confirmed for me that the scene where he trashes his trailer is the best scene in his entire
It's
career.
the best
That
role of
that's
his
that
career.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
That is the best acting
Followed
he's
by
ever done.
Incredible performance.
The Wolf of Wall Street. Those are the two. Thank you and good night.
Mm. Yeah.
Great
Is
turn.
anyone saying
Killers
he's
is
not?
up there now.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
better in The Departed.
Mhm.
I mean, he's
He is
great
really
in The
good in
Departed.
You should have gone
great
for
movie.
Catch Me If You Can. You should have gone for Catch Me If You Can.
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
My gears
that's
would have
great,
turned a
Leo.
little bit more. That's more of a
Mm.
Tom Hanks thing. So
I mean that's the three is Hollywood, Catch Me If You Can, and The Departed.
well, you put a little bit more on Jordan Belfort, man. He's funny.
You know
He's
I would
that's
agree with Zach.
that's
I would
five.
swap out. Yeah.
he's
I
just
just
comedy
We're
masterclass.
we are spoiled with great Leo.
Yeah, he really is phenomenal.
I just sort of already have Ray Liotta in Goodfellas, and that was great then.
He's better than Ray Liotta.
No.
I mean,
It's
the
kind of
thing,
different because he's more of the
Right.
ringleader, and Ray
Yeah.
Liotta's like the fucking errand boy that gets promoted a few times.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
that's two things I wouldn't necessarily compare.
I would, but Leo's better.
You're no, he's not.
He is. He is.
He's
He
not.
is.
He's really not.
Much funnier.
Yeah, sure.
Get the lewds.
But Wolf of Wall Street is a comedy.
Yes. Well, the
So
Goodfellas is comedic. The third act of it, he's just like coked out doing funny things.
Mm.
I just don't think he has a line read as good as Karen. That was all we had. What are you doing?
The thing with Leo and Wolf is that he's like operating on like 6 or 7 different levels of like excessive cartoonish insanity. It's just such a dynamic performance. I mean, not that Leota and Goodfellas isn't dynamic, but like it's just this different level of impressive.
Yeah,
On the phone with the guy, like, I got something here you just gotta see.
yeah.
Actually the best argument to me for Leo in Wolf of Wall Street is the Quaalude scene where he's like
I
fully
remembered I could roll.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the way that he's able to do the things he does with his body and his face in that
It's
sequence
Rick
is just
Dalton is 1A. What this it's Rick
Yeah.
Dalton. We can all
Rick-
come
yeah.
to the table on that one.
yeah, 1000%.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Jordan
I'm just
Belfort
saying
is
I watched Goodfellas again earlier this month,
great
and
movie.
Ray Liotta should have been the Al Pacino of the 90s, and he wasn't.
May he rest in peace.
Mhm.
Yeah. One battle after another. One good movie after another.
Do we like Battle of Bactan Cross better as a title? I think I do.
No, I like one battle after another.
I like the
Um,
idea of it being like one, it's
I-
the ruthless onslaught, but like the successive, one battle
Mhm.
being Willa after another, her
Yeah.
parents.
I do wish it wasn't said out loud in the movie. Like I
Yeah,
always sort of
right.
like it
Yeah.
more
That
when-
was a little like
I
Yeah,
always
that's
like
the
it more
that's the
when
Leo
they're-
that
pointing
was a
me.
little
They don't do
sweaty. That was
Yeah.
a little sweaty, but
especially as early as it comes as well. You're like, oh wow,
Uh-huh.
there might as well have been a title card with it.
but yeah,
Alana
no.
Haim getting the title card in this movie and then unceremoniously shot in the fucking head
Yeah.
minutes later.
But
That's
yeah,
great.
no,
It's a great
I
moment.
love how the title ties into that generational conflict, at the very end
Mhm.
where
Mm.
Leo's finally where Bob is finally settling into his old statesman age, trying to
Mm.
figure out the phone, doesn't know how to use Flash.
Right.
And you've got Willa as the revolutionary now, going 3.5 hours away to Oakland to fight. The struggle never ends. You can only hope that your kids are going to be better at it than you can. And she's off to fight. And I'm gonna throw as maybe a spicy take. I think American Girl is my favorite PTA needle drop.
I said that in the chat. I have since retracted it. It's about two or three, but I almost
It's
wept.
up there.
So,
What I'll say about it is it genuinely surprised me that
Mm-hmm.
as a
yeah.
needle drop, and it was in the best way. Where it was like I would not have expected him to drop that song, and it immediately made perfect sense, and also just sort
Yeah.
of like hit me in the
It's
face really
such a
hard.
sweet moment, and I think if it wins Best Picture, I think that's the thing that takes it over the top.
I really was a fan of the Steely Dan Dirty Work Needle
The
drop.
Oh
Steely Dan
yeah.
Oh,
drop
that
was
was
great
great.
too. You should. I literally had a moment in the theater where like my head went up like this
Yeah.
as soon as I recognized that song. I'm like,
Bro
damn.
sat up
But then
like
again,
the
it's also
Undertaker.
that I think the only reason I don't feel more positively about it is that like that is the Steely Dan song that
It is, it
that
is. You
people
could
always
have
use.
you could have maybe gone a little deeper cut. It's Wise Up, I think. I don't think that there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
meaningful
it's
Well,
it's
challenge
I
there.
I, I think for me it's Save Me, but
Sure.
that's
it's
also
the
my
the
favorite.
the
It plays over my favorite shot in movies. So,
Mm.
And
it's the
then
music of Amy Mann
yeah.
yeah.
in Magnolia.
And then Vitamin C, I think for me. There's a lot in Inherent Vice I could go to, but the Vitamin C thing is fucking clinical.
Mm,
That song's just also
mm.
fucking
It's not just like a great song in the movie. It's like it perfectly tells you
mhm,
everything about the moment and the time
mhm.
and what the movie's going to be. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Shit
Mm.
rules, man.
Shout out Damo Suzuki.
This
You
doesn't get
know,
better than that. But yeah, no,
Mm.
it's a great shout. My buddy actually saw this. So this played here in March as like an advanced screening, and my buddy went to see it. And the first question he asked me when I got out was like, "Is American Girl still there?" Because it's not certain when you see those things. They could make
yeah.
changes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, licensing rights and all that. But yeah, no, I think it's such a perfect encapsulation of what
Mm.
the entire film's about.
It's just,
1,000%.
community, and that's where the hope is.
I'm looking
You never,
forward to watching this the second time. I don't know what it's going to do. It may not move. It may go up. It may go down. I have no idea, but I'm looking forward to having my own conceptions and feelings and thoughts and then going back through it and seeing like what shakes loose or what feels different or what feels better or whatever. I could definitely see that being a more um gratifying experience maybe. Like I'm trying to bulk from the idea of like it's going to be so much better, but I think that the experience will be a little bit smoother, not trying to like
Mm.
learn it, digest it, go through it the first time. There will be no weight of expectation. There'll be
and
no weight of
yeah, I
hype.
mean, anything is gonna hit better when you don't got a bitch and you're saying best of the decade.
For
So,
sure.
Well, I always feel very fortunate when I get the chance, and this was one of those chances to see this movie before anyone else, or before at least there's been, those
The
initial reactions
significant,
percolating.
yeah.
Yeah,
Even
everyone.
I
like
just,
getting in before the huge groundswell of hype, getting in before the huge groundswell of counter hype, of people being like, "It's
Mhm.
not that good, bro," and like all that
yeah.
bullshit too.
Yeah.
And whereas for me now, it's like it's been almost a week since I've seen this, and it's
Mhm.
washing this like conversation generally is just washing over me. I've solidified my feelings on the movie already.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
good
know,
one
it's
that is just a
just,
lesson in how silly talking about movies online can get.
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I think it was notable for me. Like, I'm not really on Twitter anymore, but it's still kind of leaked through. Like I'm on Letterboxd
Mhm.
enough that like that alone is going to
I
do
am.
it. But
Especially because this all started with David Ehrlich being like, "This is the best American studio film since 2010," and he was like shouting off like Ad Astra and Furiosa and all these other examples, and it's like, whew,
it's not better than Oppenheimer, so no, it's not. But it's really good.
it's great.
Yeah,
Only
somehow
gonna
it's
go
only
up
my
for
I
me.
fourth
got
favorite of the year.
Yeah,
I
I got three
four
above this.
star. I will say it's not my favorite movie I saw this weekend,
Yeah, my son, my Romanian son.
but that's just my taste.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not saying
still
there's no
exciting.
I'm not saying there's no room for it to happen, but if I see a better film this year, I'll eat one of my toenails or something. It's just
I like how low you were prepared to set the stakes there.
you think eating toenails is low?
I don't know. I just wasn't. I would have expected you to
Yeah.
say something more like substantive, but I'm not denying that would be a really uncomfortable thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would expect you to say though. To be fair, so there we
How
go.
would you even like? Would you like
Well, you'd have
caramelize
to
them like you do
Yeah, you'd have
onions?
to like, yeah, you'd want to make it
no
as soft as possible.
no, you gotta take it like a pill.
Put it in the blender,
No, you just
like I
yeah,
don't know,
everything you all are doing is making it slower and worse. Just put
chicken,
it
like a chicken cutlet, but with toenails instead of breadcrumbs.
It's just keratin.
Well, this has been fun. Thank you guys for tuning in and join us on the next one where I think we're going to be talking about those two Stephen King adaptations I mentioned up top in reverse chronological order, starting with John Carpenter's Christine and then moving into Brian De Palma's Carrie. And I think that that will be a fun little duology with lots of interesting things to talk about. Take us a little bit back into the past, probably get a chance to talk about more October new releases as they hit the calendar. But I think that kind of wraps us here on Mr. Paul Thomas Anderson. Until the next time, and we finally get like There Will Be Blood and Phantom Thread properly on the docket. It's been fun to just dig back through his catalog, both watching it, talking about it. Exciting guy. I mean, it's hard to say something original about him at this point. Very talked about, very celebrated, very beloved, and exciting that he's growing and challenging himself in new ways that maybe we haven't seen him do in a long time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of many filmmakers that make their Spielbergian road movie at 55 years old.
mhm.
hmm
It just really throws any sense of like his potential or what he's going to do next out the window. Like, all right, cool. I mean, we were probably all going to see it no matter what, but we're feeling fresh and reinvigorated, I would say.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's it.
1000%.
We're
And thank
signing
you for
off.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining, and we'll see you again for Mr. of Palma, Mr. D. Palma, Mr.
The
Brian
Palmer.
Palm. Listen, I don't know,
My
whatever.
father was Mr. The Palmer.
Yeah. Noah Baumbach's favorite dude.
And
And yeah,
he
so
should
thanks
make a
for
he
jumping
should make a
on.
Brian De Palma movie instead of doing like Jay Kelly. That would be more interesting than whatever Jay Kelly looks like.
I want to see
Jay
George Clooney,
Kelly,
so
Jay Kelly looks very good. I don't know what you're talking about.
I will be there no matter what.
It's
Anyway,
playing at AFI Fest. I might have to get a ticket.
yeah, yeah, Mr. Skeptical on White Noise guy talking about Noah Baumbach. Cool it. All right, thank you everybody so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Peace.
Ciao.